I hope you took up my challenge and you were networking and you have new contacts. Before we leave, I will be checking your phones. So the next session is on meaningful access and digital inclusion, reaching underserved communities. This is a very important topic. It is crucial that when we move, we take everyone with us. The marginalized groups, the underserved groups need to be on board as we create a resilient future. This session will be moderated by Mr. Zweletu Dlamini from Eswatini Observer. He is a seasoned print and broadcast journalist and communication officer, and he's the Secretary General of the Media Workers Union of Eswatini. I would like to welcome Mr. Zweletu Dlamini, who will be moderating this session, and he will introduce his panelists. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. From the Internet Governance Forum, the Ministry of ICT, the media, distinguished guests, and all protocol observed. I would like to thank you all for participating in this special event, and I would also like to introduce or welcome my panel to the stage. We have Mr. Mbongeni Mchali from the Eswatini Communications Commission. Please give him a round of applause as he comes to the stage. I would also like to introduce Mr. Sakhile Dlamini, who is from the Ministry of ICT. Please also welcome him with a round of applause. And lastly, I would like to introduce Mage Grace Bembe. She's also a board member of FOTSWA. She has worked in various organizations. Please also give her a round of applause. Oh, please welcome Mr. Zweletu Dlamini to the stage. He will be the moderator for this session. I think the MC did a very good work introducing me. I think all that she said is correct, save for that I have left the Observer for now. I am now with INTLASA Center for Investigative Journalism. Our topic, as they've already mentioned, is a meaningful access to digital inclusion, with the hope that we are going to be reaching the underserved communities. The internet is becoming increasingly embedded in the lives of individuals, communities, and commerce. It is important to ensure digital literacy and access to ICT for everyone. Deliberate efforts need to be made to reduce the gap between those that have access to the internet and those that do not, including the most disadvantaged communities. So with that, universal access is more important now than ever. In this topic, our speakers will discuss, among others, the following: the access and connectivity, digital inclusion, accessibility, affordability and robustness of the internet services, introduction of applications and online content designed to enable and encourage self-sufficiency, participation, and collaboration. With those few remarks, I would like to ask our first speaker, Mr. Sakile Dlamini, to make his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Dlamini, and my greetings to everyone here. The topic that we are speaking on is meaningful access and digital inclusion, and the sector that I come from is government, and I work in the Ministry of ICT, where we develop policy and legislative frameworks for the ICT sector, inclusive of internet governance and cybersecurity. So I'll just highlight on a few things that are important when you are developing policies and legislative frameworks that will ensure sustainability of the internet. But firstly, I'll start by highlighting the barriers that we have to address when we develop those policies and those legislations, because we have to start from there, have a problem statement, and be able to come up with solutions that will address those problems. I'll go to the next slide. Oh, yes, where we'll look at the barriers to internet access. I just highlighted a few because of time. But when we talk about infrastructure barriers, you will know and realize that deployment of infrastructure is very costly, and operators, when they deploy infrastructure, they want return on investment that will come quickly. And when they are to deploy to remote or rural areas, there is high cost of maintenance there, and high cost of power to maintain those sites, because the adoption in the rural areas is very minimal. Hence, then government has to come up with interventions that will ensure that network coverage goes as far as the rural areas. And then also there is the affordability barrier that we have to talk to, which speaks to the purchasing power of the people that are accessing the internet. The lower the purchasing power, the lower will be the adoption of the internet. And then we talk about issues like taxation, where if you have more and more levies, on connectivity and consumer mobile connectivity, then that will reduce the inclusive or the inclusion of the people to the internet. And then also we talk about data costs, which are very important in ensuring that people are able to access the internet. Then lastly, there's the illiteracy and a lack of awareness barrier, because as the PS highlighted in his speech, there are people who have access or who could have access to the internet, but they choose not to, either because of illiteracy or because of lack of awareness of the benefits that comes with the internet. So we'll then look at some of the interventions that government has to do, inclusive of other stakeholders. Those interventions, they include regulatory interventions, whereby, is the next slide? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, regulatory interventions, which include, release of some other spectrum. For example, in the past we have released the digital dividend spectrum, which is a low frequency band that allows, extensive coverage, geographic coverage of mobile connectivity to ensure that we cover some of the areas that were underserved. And then regulations like infrastructure sharing, and also looking at renewable energy to ensure that we have sustainable power to the remote sites where there is minimal adoption and there's low return on investment that will sustain, the cost of maintaining those sites. And then also the establishment of the Universal Access and Service Fund, which Mr. Mjali will allude more to it, are some of the interventions that government had to put to place by establishing the regulator to ensure that such fund is put to good use, and more and more people are connected. And then another issue that is important is the issue of e-government services, which creates appetite for people to connect to the internet, because they'll be able to access government services through electronic means. And there's a number of interventions or e-government programs that government has put forward for the people to access, including e-procurement, e-taxation, and also the renewal of license disc for motor vehicles. And then another issue is the issue of consumer awareness in addressing the illiteracy barrier and the awareness barrier. Initiatives such as the Internet Governance Forum that we are having now, these are initiatives that are meant to enlighten the people or eMaSwati of the good of the internet and how we can benefit from the internet, so that we increase adoption. And then also on digital literacy, the ministry through the public libraries is offering digital literacy training to ensure that more and more people become literate. And then this other part is something that we are still to achieve, that talks to take taxes on ICT equipment and inclusive of mobile communication, because if you reduce taxes, this will translate to, it will actually translate to more adoption, more people connecting to the internet, and eventually you also increase the tax revenue base. So we need to talk about these things, and our revenue authority has to be on board when we talk about this issue, so that we are all working together to ensure that we increase adoption. I think I'll just stop there and allow other speakers to speak, Mr. Zwelethu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sakile. We now have heard what are the barriers and what our government is doing in an effort to ensure that we have meaningful access and digital inclusion. But next to me, I have Margaret Grace Bembe, who will be sharing with us her experience and what access and connectivity means, and if what we have just heard from Mr. Sakile is true, in terms of our government having taken great strides in ensuring that we have meaningful access and digital inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the parliamentarians, ministers, PSCs, panelists, stakeholders, and my panel up here. We are very proud with EXCOM. As we know, persons with disability, I'm from the Federation of Persons with Disabilities. I'm not going to talk politics, but there is that model of charity and the model of medical and the model of inclusion. That's the rights. Most countries in Africa, they treat persons with disability under the model of charity, thinking that giving them something, it will benefit them, leaving all their basic needs behind. And the medical model is whereby you just treat the person what he needs. Other aspects of her needs is just left behind. Then when we come to social model you will find in communities, even government is categorized under community, because if we talk about community, we just talk about the group of people that are together under one same room, under one same rule, policy, and act. So you find that they'll just give them when they have supplies, they just give them. Then the last model is the model of the rights of persons with disability. So ESCOM has done that, ESCOM has done the rights to persons with disability, because they did not only mainstream us, but they also needed us to say our disadvantage, where there are gaps. I think that's where persons with disability need their room, so that you don't talk on their behalf, they talk for themselves. Thank you for that. I'm just grateful with ESCOM. Our topic is on meaningful access and dignity. I'll take social, I'll take health. So when we talk, I will start, because all the points, we don't have the office, we don't have all that. So persons with disability, poverty, unsustainable goal number 1, poverty. They don't even have money to buy the cell phone, to have the Wi-Fi in their houses. So they are being left behind on internet. Then those people, persons with disability, there are so many categories of them, just because of time. But we have got the intellectuals, where we have the Down syndrome ones, where we have got the mental challenged ones, where we've got the autism one, where we've got those who are not capable of catching things fast. At school, teachers, they call them redundant. So, because of poverty, as the SD number 1, they don't access internet because they don't have all the tools that they have to use. Even on health, because of this pandemic, you'll find that they have to be at home. There was no way of communicating with them. They are being left behind. Those with visual impairment, they are using Braille. There's no communication on Braille. Even all the stakeholders here, MPs, if I can look at their documents, they are not Braille, so they are left behind. I'll thank the media house, that during the news, there is somebody who interpret. Because even in online, you have got the audio. There must be somebody beside that is interpreting what is being said. So we are being left behind. We also need, as I say, socially, we'll have to get things equally as non-disabled persons. So we are being left behind as disabled person. On emergency, there was this disaster, the unrest. You'll find there is no tool that will make persons with disability, those who are deaf, they'll just see policemen hitting them, not knowing what is happening. So online, if there can be a tool with the forces, with the media houses, that will alert persons with disability, that there is something happening, so you have to be aware, because they don't know really what is going around with them. Then you find that the tool that we are using, they are not skilled. They don't know how to use it. So he has mentioned that at library there is this training. I'd like them to also include persons with disability, because all the ministries, non-governmental, private, they don't have focal persons, those who will communicate with persons with disability. With the intellectuals, some of them, they say they are mad, they are agupili. Those children, they need to be trained because their status, we need the doctors to diagnose them. But those people, they are not on the same level. We have got, the UN Convention has been ratified in Swaziland in 2012. We have the policy in 2013. It has been domesticated. We have the Act in 2018. But the problem is, it is not implemented. Our documents are very nice in policy, laws, and so forth. That's why I was grateful with ESCOM. But it's not implemented. When it comes to implementation, you tell us about funds. Regulations for the law that has been passed in 2018 are being delayed because of funds. With us, as disabled persons, we find that we are more marginalized. So we will be very happy that everybody include us in their programs. Now, in Africa, we have the African Protocol on Persons with Disability. Only 4 countries in Africa have ratified it. Our country is under those countries who hasn't ratified it, because the UN Convention is international. But as Africans, our culture will not match with the overseas cultures. So in Africa, we need to do things according to Africans. But I'm advocating to the parliamentarians that the protocol, if it can be signed, so that we can in Swaziland follow, comparing with our culture and what needs to be done. Because if you talk about human rights, sometimes people, they don't understand that they also have the right, as ESCOM has realized that, they also have the right to be on the same line on online interventions. Thank you very much.
I'm running out of words. I think the mic is not working for that reason. After what Maggie has shared with us, but I think I'm not the right person to respond to what Maggie has said. I think I have somebody who is more qualified, who is more informed on what is the regulator doing to ensure that they are not left behind. Because that's the word I kept hearing, that eMaswati are left behind, while others are going to the first world status digitally, are being connected, but certain or a majority of eMaswati are left behind, including people living with disabilities. I think I have the right person to tell us what is the regulator doing, together with the service providers, to ensure that nobody is left behind and we have meaningful connectivity. And with those few remarks, I would like to ask Mr. Mjali to tell us exactly what are they doing.
Siyabonga Dlamini, siyabusela peers and all protocol observed. Challenge, I can see that you are putting me in front of a fast-moving train. Kanti senale nkinga yokuthi ningasakhile, you didn't tell me that the theme of the panel, yabona nabuka lamabhantshi, you can tell that when we had a meeting last night, they omitted the part to say kune theme on the panel. I'm going to try, moderator, to talk to your points in a few minutes. But maybe before we get there, I just need us to talk about the term meaningful connectivity. Because the term meaningful already, ITU has defined it. So it is not just an English word. It's a framework that talks about the midpoint between useful connectivity and the quality of the connectivity. And it is a journey that we have been advised to work on, and in the matrix IO and enablers, which I'm going to try and talk to and try to respond to your comments. So it is not just about the connectivity, but it must make sense. It must be meaningful, and it must talk to all the sectors between people, business, household, and the communities, and it must have levers, which is what we are trying to do. And if you look at the ecosystem of it in the next slide, you will then realize that it's a journey. It's not something that we are going to get it right the first time. We are moving from a zero to where it is meaningful. And we need to take everyone along. I think in my last slide, you will then fit yourself in as a body sitting here where now you contribute. So it is not just a regulatory function. It is not a government function. It includes everyone in this space, because it has the issue of infrastructure, which deals with the access. Then we will talk about the affordability. It has always been a subject that has come to say idurile, and I always ask yini leleshipile, yini leledurile. Kecha yindaba lalabanye bakhulumisa kusibehlise, ngeke ngibasho ngoba bekho ngosi lalabanye lalababona ema rates abo yona ayenyuka. Now you keep imali, angisho labasemabhange bengenqa nje. But when you talk about the sector, every time it must go down. So we will talk to it. And then we'll talk about the devices themselves, which now becomes how you then use the service. We'll talk about the skills and the security. But from where we are, the point I'm trying to drive here, it is a journey. And we all have to do our role. Let me talk about now your question, moderator, in terms of how we are approaching it, in terms of reaching the underserved community. There is a framework that the World Bank has shared, and we adopted it. It's an ecosystem where you talk about the high-speed network, where you talk about then the services themselves, what you do, and then you talk about the applications and then the users themselves. If you look at the framework, it then touches the whole, it then syncs well with our share, which is what you mentioned properly. It is not done by just the regulator. It's a collaborative effort, including our licensees. We have a number of licensees that we partner with. And then there is a government who is playing the part in terms of the legislation. Now let me say what we have done and what we are doing. So that at least then we can see what we have done in each of the four sectors. I'll start with the network. One of the things that we have done for it to be meaningful is to define the speed. So we have agreed that anything below 5 megabits per second is not broadband, so as a concede. So we're starting at 5 megabits per second to get to. That is what we have set ourselves as a target. Because we are saying at 5 megabits per second, you can do something meaningful about it. Some of the operators here will tell you that when they come and we have conversations, bangaveta nje labo 516, bo 1 megabit per second. Vele sithi nje seningajika ngeke sininike nalamandi la tafuleni ndawubuya nasenifuna ukukhuluma nathi. So we have defined it at 5 megabits per second. And it is for all. It is not just for the towns. So that is just the benchmark. So that in all our initiatives, and we are driven by that. That is a benchmark. The second part is the issue of cost. I said I will talk to it. If you look at what the regulator has done in the past 4 years or so, the cost of data has been reduced. Has been reduced by over 60%. If you look at the cost of data, nyalo sesengile futhi la ku 1 megabits per second, Deputy Chair of Senate, sesibala ngema gig. If you look at the cost of 1 gig 4 years ago and now, sesidlalela la kubo uyabo. Sesijagela kubo less than uyabo. So the movement from 230 at that time, 99 rand per meg. It's a movement in terms of the cost of data. Now we do this thing, we have to be careful because these are businesses that we work with. We had a session with we had a session with the Central Bank some few weeks ago, and bakalanga data and our view was that because if we is at the cost of data, we are directly impacting the business. So we need to do it responsibly. So reducing it over 4 years by 60%, you know, but it is a journey that we still continue to do. I think we are in a new phase now to try and do it. Umphathu spoke about where we are in terms of 4G coverage in the country. We're sitting at 80% on 4G. I'm not going to talk about 3G because 3G will have the speed is 5. So 4G. If you look at 90% by end of this financial year, March, population coverage on 4G sitting at 90%. I mean, you have reached a huge milestone, but that is just the part of connectivity. Let me talk about the services, because National Island the services, what we have tried to do, the first thing is to make sure that we monitor the quality of service, and we do it continuously and purposefully. There are guidelines that government has issued, but we are monitoring on a daily basis. We are not there. I said to us earlier, it's a journey. We are not there, but we do have some robust discussion with several providers. And then there is the issue of supporting government, especially the e-government programs, because at the end of the day, people want services closer to the people. I think if you look at the Dingundla governance way, it talks about decentralization, talks about taking the government services to the people. That is what we do. That is what we support. And some of the initiatives that we do is to help government. And again, we're doing that. 5 megabits per second, because that becomes now the enabler. So we do help in that aspect. There are two things that have been said time and time again. The issue of local content. The issue of local content is important. We are working with some of our operators to try and establish a local studio where Lamaswati will develop their own local content. The reason why good local content is because good developer. So we're working with the operators just to set up a studio. No matter share it 30 minutes an hour, but at least we have a decent studio that will produce decent content. Then we'll be able to influence the society we live in. Vele nangabe asifundisi ngakufasa alfindo andawubekisa ngawo bamasela ngivame ukubona uvunulile. Daba sifundise ngokufasa lifindo na uvunulile. Le ku TV, le ku YouTube. Sithi le live litawu yapi. You know, that is local content. If you were to do that and publish it online, because labantwana sebale online, then you have been able to do a lot of things. One is to increase the culture involvement. Two, so ubafundisile nje labantwana ukuthi uyathi kunento ekuthiwa lifindo. Uyabo. So I'm just making an example and the importance of us creating that local studio. It is going to cost us a little bit of money, but we think kids with disabilities, because that's a trade on its own. And if we don't do that, if we don't influence that, then we have a problem. Partnership le akusiyo yethu sodwa yabantu labaningi. I'm going to talk about application. Zangikhuluma kakhulu che ngiyabona ukufuna ukungikhatha. The issue of decentralization, the issue of content, the issue of safety, because part of what IT tells us is that it must be safe. The regulator and government has established a cyber sect, which makes sure that we're at least monitoring in terms of cyber attacks. Users, what have we done? One of the things that we have done is we are trying to help rural schools with laptops. We have already distributed more than 2,000 laptops to schools in the rural areas, each school getting 45 laptops, so that they can be able to then learn ICT. It's a program that we are doing in partnership with education. We transform the data, digitize, so that my laptops are meaningful. We have established Wi-Fi at Tinkundlen. Minister wethu PS wasifundzele Riot Act kaDzensini wathi nje supporter hulumende weTinkundla nokusebenza kwakhe. So we have gone to leTinkundla and tried to establish hotspots Wi-Fi where emaswati angaya khona and access 500 megabytes of data. 500 megabytes of data ngelanga, it's about 15 gigs ngenyanga that you can have as liswati nje. Kuthi ufike lapha uthi noma ungafika uthatha iselfie uthi bese sofaka Instagram uthi location Mthambama Inkundla. Yabo. Now the feedback that we get at Inkundla is sekuyayiletha le traffic. Nabo baholela labo gogo. Bofaka le mali kumzala. So uyabona ukuthi kwendekani qhubekele empilo. So we are trying to bridge that gap and sibanike labantu abadala nalabo bakhubatekile letincingo ukuze ukuthi nabo batawuhola esandleni. Ngicabanga ukuthi che angigcina ngekuthi ngithinzele lunga le framework inathi sonke lapha. If you look at now the other parts that are white, ngilapho sonke sifitisha khona, because there are policies that needs to be there. They are enablers that need to be there. So mina lengacela, and I will ask you now nje now une role noma uthi so resignele ka observe. We all have a role to play in making sure that there is meaningful connectivity. We cannot do it alone as a ministry and as a regulator. We need everyone to play their part. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngiyaqina lapho nje.
Siyabonga kakhulu impendulo la ifakile babe Mtshali ngangathi noma makuyanetiseka yini, kepha ke lesikhathi ngicela ukuthi ngimane nani nginikete lithuba imibuto manje nje ibe mithathu. Ngisadi kahle isikhathi sami MC ngathi ngibuka ngemehlo lathi ngathi kufuna ngiphuthume, kepha ke ngicela ukuthi nangabe kukhona labanemibuto ipanel yami sesekhona nibahlohle nje leleshisako. Ngiyajabula bakhona umbuto losokhona ngathi khwalo omunye lo nembuto stove silungisa ukuthi ngibane nestamenti ele microphone. Ngathi munye umbuto mi okay inhlanhla isinemibito lemibili kushoda munye ayisho sesiphelele. Ngicela ukuthatha umbuto wekucala.
Hello. My name is Ronald Makakula, I'm sorry, MTN. Thanks for the discussion. Benjamin Jali, when he spoke about barriers, he touched on safety, but I thought he was going to speak about security as well. I think one of the things we don't discuss much, and maybe it's to find out who's the ICT, maybe in the regulator, what are they doing in terms of ensuring because once the infrastructure is in place, because I think one of the problems we have in this country is once the infrastructure has been placed, and as you said, it's very expensive to put it down. Then you find that the communities are the ones that actually dig it out, and then
Utawucela Baba Mtshali asiphendule.
Bengithe sithatha yonke nje in the interest of time.
Ngiyayikhumbula.
Angayikhumbula.
Sitawucela lo wesibili umbuto. Nika umhlonishwa i-microphone.
Cha ngithi ngiyabonga lokuthi konke lesenikhuluma ngakho ukuthi niyakwenta manje ngifuna ukuthi nginibeke isithombe ukuthi niyayati lento lenikhuluma ngayo ukuthi technical isilumbi manje nansi ndawufundisa eMaswati into le technical bese nikhuluma nangalesingisi futhi nithi sitakuva njani ukuthi nitsini ngoba nyalo lingisabo dokotela esibhedlela lofika kuphutha tena ngesandla uba bathe kubhlungu lapha dokotela ningevani bese kufuneka lo tawuchaza ngithi ke le technology lena i complicated eMaswati ngiko nje bebanale tinzambo lathi gangeni ngoba mangathi kwani lokho bekelweni lo osuyathatha kuyabona ukuthi uyokusebenzisa yena engcenye hayi ukuthi bakweba ngoba kumbe banjanja uma nje sikwani ukubeka esigangeni lobunye uthi ngiyaditholela sova ngamaphoyisa webile manje ke iyahlupha lenzaba lena bekunene le ukuthi nase uvele ndabekisangani ubekisa njengemuntu oshayela indiza sonke lapha sikwati kuyishayela kejana ngafika lo muntu atosifundisa ngendiza akhuluma ngesingisi abithi lamagama alento la sayifundzele yona uthi wendisisile kanti no udlalile manje ke bengicela mina ukuthi nine senithwasile kulento kubukeni lo seMaswati nikufaka kanjani ngoba inyanga nje nayinemadloti lisi lingavuka ledloti kunebantu lapho bese niyakheka nokuthi uthini lo muntu sekuqala abatana umshelo so lidloti lesi nineke kulobunyanga kwambe benu ukuthi senifuzile kakhulu damani lo senibuye kule level yalabantu batokwati kufunza lento le bantu bangathusebela nalabo letinzambo latigangeni cabanga umuntu uthi tilahliwe ngokuthi kanze ehlathini uthi tilahliwa ntiyasebenza ngiyabonga
asibonge kuma presenters sibonge make Bhembe sibonge nje nale opportunity yokutokuva ama challenges la khona with the new digital things ngathi isha mhlawumbe ngendlela ukuthi sesi-adaptekile kuyo ngengane through i-COVID siyabonga nje kuva manje ukuthi uvele lamathuluzi ayashoda le ngephandle kodwa ke ngicamaze at the same time we have to appreciate ukuthi yonke into ita kancane mina nje kunembuto ukuthi sesiyabuka lamabhange vele konke seku digital kunaleli bhange mina lisebenzisa abantu vele sebayancipha sithi sesifuna kwentani sinesibantu are we prepared ukuthi siwukhuphule lo mnotho wethu ukuthi sitikhanze sigroupana mhlambe sesibani kambe nje nebantu labantu boma accounts babe ngema financial whatever advisors or whatever lebangakwenda bangacashwa baticashe bona bacalele imisebenzi ngoba kunebuhle nebubi bakhona vele lapha lesikubona nalokulahlekelwa imali ke mawungakakwadi nalok operator uthi khanza ushiya uvulile imfihlo yakho ushiya uthi when log out kanza ukalog out. I mean kusekuningi ngiyafisa ke lokwathi ukuthi nitakweni ngaphandle nje kwemake so ukhombe ama challenges of lacking of the tools. What are we going to, how are we going to reach out and teach people? Ngiyabona ukuthi niyadama, but I don't think it's enough. Ngoba kuyafuna vele niye down on the ground. Nibacale nje kukona lokuthi yini le internet governance forum imcoka ngani ngoba vele isihlanganisa sonke njengabe nisho ukuthi ama police makers and everything. Mina nje ngibuloko nje ukuthi sendani lesingena kuloko labantu nibasita ngani niba-advise nibathini even niye kubo bona labathi khanza thi they are left out. Thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu bahlonishwa. Ukusekhona lo landlela. Okunelingonyana.
Angibonge kakhulu moderator lithuba kokuqala nje ngedlule ngokudvumisa kubonga litiko kakhulu especially yena esikhom umsebenzi lakawentile sivile ekucaleni lokuthi silive nje sebakhonile lokuthi ba register laka IGF ba register nationally nje global sesine nathi sesiregistiwe siyatiwa ngicabanga ukuthi umsebenzi lomkhulu kakhulu lesingawubonga kakhulu labawentile nokuba nje ne web page yethu kukhulu nabo kakhulu. Ngala ke uthindile presenter ngiyabona wokuqala edulu kwekuthi le ngaphandle especially kumbe kuma rural areas kukhona lokuthi mbele internet noma ngayikhona ingasebenziseki because people are maybe ignorant about batayisebenzisa njani kuphi batayisebenzisa njani. Le ngikucela konke mina nami ngiyagcizelela kakhulu la kuma educational programs ngayo le internet ngicabanga ukuthi vele siyashoda kakhulu kumbe kungaqali lapho nje kucale kwawona lama gadget siyawathenga nako nje niphethe ilate ma computer bangaba nako so umuntu if angakafundziseke akathi siyatidinga vele live liyatidinga letikolo kakhulu ukuthi sive sifundziseke ngala ma gadget itolo even besikhala ngokuthi sikhala ngenzaba yokufunda ukuthi ibhale kasebenta kufunda ukuthi ibhalela no silekisha lapho sebenta ke wafuca ngalapho until I percentage nayo yaba le impressa nako impela sesingcono but nyalo live sisala kakhulu ngala kwaleta boma gadget kuze sitokhona kusebenzisa le internet futhi sisebenzise kahle asati vele live sive asati siyayidinga le education njengalokho sesishito lesinye sikhuluma besibuye phansi down to the level of the people bafundiseke kahle kuze ke sito isebenzisa kahle nayo ngiyabonga.
Sitawucela baba Mjala asiphendulele umbuto mhlambe wecala newesibili.
Thank you moderator sibonga kakhulu. Sengidawuzama ukukhuluma ngeSiswati ngoba ngiyabona lokuthi bathi lokumnyango wabo ufuna ukungathi ungabumoderator. Mbali ngale ndawuqala ngale yaba magagula lapha emva. I think it cannot be overemphasized uyabona ke ngete sakugcizelela kakhulu futhi sikuyekele lenzaba yokuthi nathi ngathatha lo mgomo wokuthi nawe uliphoyisa singasheshe sifike lapho sisusa khona lenkinga lesinayo yagesi. Ngeke ngababekisela lele ngihlala nabo ngalala ngihlala khona lokho bafana sekuhambe kakhulu akusamsabi igesi kwemalangeni nangi7 bafike baqisha le line lagesi lelikhulu baya lapha kule transformer bajuba lo gesi le tinzambo lapha le transformer bajuba nje bahamba nato babuya labasemagesini bathwaka ngakusasa babuya batijuba baphinze babuya bathfaka. I think balahlisa nje ilanga linye mabili lasinalina ngalanga lina nje bajuba. Uyabona ukuthi ngithi ngiyabashaya abantu basemagesini bathi yathi kusini madoda esesiphumile kini until nine niphume nihle niyaluka nje la ngaphandle ngilapho le ndvita uphela khona because akusho ukuthi bekwenda kulelo unongabo 11 nje ubona lo gesi athi fili hambile uthi ke lo babe nangimshayela uyabona kube ngesikhathi athi fili waphuma nje ngale moto bebathi awuthuka babaleke. So nale copper nale yama battery ngoba nyala bafuna nama battery na in lekhathi usola nje funa bese uyaphuma. So ngicabanga ukuthi kufuna thathe lo mgomo ukuthi nawe uliphoyisa kutase kuyasebenzela because vele nathi siyadzinga kwenta irolo ngoba sidlala kule kulama community. Kule yesibili lekhuluma moderator nge local inclusivity ne capacity building beyikhona lapha bebahlonishwa manager ngayifunda ngoba bese ngithi shaka skhat sinehlelo vele lesiliqala nyalo lokethe inkundleni nababaholela labo gogo thina sibafundisa ukuthi kusebenza kanjani lokho. Sitakuqala vele bese ngakakwenda sitakuqala sekuvelile ikakhulu nasebenzela le-office la DPM ukuthi okay sabanezingcingo labantu ulumende wavela washaya umthetho wathi sesitaniholela ngo-mobile money wakhwesha wahlala lapha. So nyalo kufuna ukuthi kube nemuntu ke lo tawubutha ke bese sesiyafundisana sitawukwenda but nakhona sonke singakwenda naso ukhona nje umuntu lo sokwadi kwenda mfundisi lo seceleni kwakho phela ungamfundisi ibutsotsi ikakhulu nje umfundisi kulogger off nokulogger on ungamfundisi kusenda imali bethi faka inombolo yakho ngoba nihlupha lapho nabantu abamnyama ukuthi asesikutest bethi faka le nombolo yakho faka 50 rand. So ngicabanga ukuthi sitakuzama siyayibonga le feedback ngicabanga ukuthi into lesingayenda angigcine ngeke che ngale le network ikakhulu lemakhaya nathi ngikhuluma ngale population coverage 90% and sivele sesiyale emakhaya we are focusing on Shiselweni and Lubombo kwenda show ukuthi le network njengoba asho umhlonishwa isebenziseke lokusebenziseka umhlonishwa ngilo 5 megabits per second bengimushe ekuqaleni ngoba nyalo nayihlela ku 2G cha isebenziseke. So sisebenzela kufika lapho ngithi ekuqaleni it's a journey futhi sonke is involved. Ngiyabonga che.
Siyabonga kakhulu ngathi ukhona umbuto lo ngaphendule lokunye umifo lethi kungaba njani lokuthi siphumeni sonke siyofundisa labantu ngekusebenzisa yona le internet kuze ukuthi baphephe bangathikhanzi sebalahlekelwa natimali bathi basebenzisa dona debuciko. Lokunye lenguvile mhlambe ngiloko ukuthi vele noma ingaba khona le internet lemakhaya ukhanza lokuthi ayisebenziseki ngoba singabheka loku angathi kumbe khona babesakhilela ngafuna ukusita ngakho.
Siyabonga moderator sibonge na setimphungeni awuseba sitem mekhuluma ngalo lwimi leSiswati. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngidawukhuluma nje kulenzaba ye awareness ikakhulu ngoba ivela kakhulu and iyasinika insayeya siltiko nalabo lesebenzisana nabo ukuthi asifake amandla ekuthenini lo lwati lufike kulo lonke leSiswati. Sekushito lo lesicwalile kwenda through lama public libraries siltiko kepha ke lokunye lesingakakusho kune awareness program lesiyendako ngekusebenzisana nalamanye ama stakeholders ukuthi sifike kubamfu nje sibanike awareness about cyber security. Ngiyethemba ukuthi nikena kubona kukhona naku umabona kudze kuhle kuvela nasemsakatweni. Ngicabanga ukuthi those are some of the initiatives lesiwendile selitiko establishing ama groups lathide lesingakhona kuhambisa le awareness ngayo kufika ngisho nasetikolweni kubamba besikolo. Ngicabanga ukuthi babeme Dr Methula kukhona la ukhuluma khona ngoba nguye lo cishe bekaheda leyo team leyo lebeyenda le awareness. Ngicabanga ukuthi maybe utawa highlighter briefly on lawo ma initiatives lawo lebekendeka. Ngicabanga ukuthi imvo lekufuna nje siyichube sibone ukuthi sikuchuba njani. Lokunye lokusele indzaba lekufuna sikwende ngilokufaka lo limi leSiswati nakhona la kulabo ngcomvo mshini such that now ukhona kufaka nje kusearcha noma kusesha ufake nje ubute ngeSiswati nje ukuthi yini lokho ungakwenda njani uyitholele incazelo. So ngilekunye lekufanele ukuthi vele sibambisane nema stakeholders for ekuthenini sigcine sifikile kuleso sigaba leso. Lamanye amavese kakwendile eSouth Africa nje sekhona uyakhona ukufola lokunye lokuthide na ufaka isiZulu emagama esiZulu ubone sokuchamuka incazelo. Ngicabanga ukuthi ngayibeka lapho moderator.
Ngicela ukuthi sishayele ipanel yethu Dani. Ngiyethemba ukuthi sesivile ukuthi intingqinamba noma ke lokubanga ukuthi bantu bangakhona ukuthola kahle le meaningful noma ke iaccess kule internet. Sesivile nekuthi yini uhulumende la kwentako kutama lokufika kubo bonke abantu ukuthi nabo bakhone kusebenzisa into tekuchumana nayona internet. Sesivile nekuthi ke yini regulator la sibambisa ngako lekufaka ekhathi nabo labo laba bathi ma licenses ngisola ukuthi ngilaba benda internet ma internet providers nalaba bekuchumana betincingo. Siyabonga kakhulu isikhathi seni nokusilalela. Sethembe ukuthi kukhona leni kutholile kule ngxoxisana besinayo. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Awu bengivele ngishilo ukuthi namhla kuvutha bhe. Kuyavutha. This was an amazing panel discussion. Lemcoka nje kakhulu. And the power of human development, the power of representation, the power of having a voice, the power of having a seat on the table, the power of having diverse teams to work so that all issues are looked at in terms of policies, strategies, and implementation of everything else. No one should be left behind as we progress, as we go digital. Everyone must be on board. We are very much behind schedule, so our next panel discussion is the use of internet and online activities in the digital economy. This session will be moderated by Ms. Fisiwe Vilane, a communication specialist, a brand management specialist, and who is currently a manager for consumer affairs and communications. She's an amazing woman. I would like to welcome Fisiwe for the next session and trust her to keep time. Fisiwe Vilane, over to you.
Good morning to everyone. All protocol observed. Thank you. Thank you, MC, for the lovely introduction. Njengoba sekashito MC igama lami ngingifisiwe Vilane, ngisebenza khona ehhovisi lemlawuli weTekuxhumana, ngibuke letiphathelene labo labasebenzisa Tekuxhumana eSwatini, ngiphinze futhi ngibuke indlela yokukhokha tindzaba tiphumele ngaphandle. Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Ngitobane ngcinamba lencane nje ukuthi kulabamfu bami lento baphakamisa nyalo kukhona labangasikhulumi siswati letinju lapcopho botam ngako ke ngidawufuna lokho ukuthi ngihle ngikhuluma ngesingisi kuze ukuthi bakhone kuthi nabo babe khona basikhulumisa. I-topic yethu sokhulumile ukuthi manje ke sibuka ukuthi i-internet idlala yiphi inzima kuze ukuthi sikhone ukuthi sichubekise tindzaba tekusebenta netemnotfo eSwatini. Using the use of internet and its activities in driving the digital economy, that is the topic that we will discuss. I would like to invite to the stage Futhi Tembe, who is from ENPF. She is GM Finance, also responsible for the digital transformation project that I think we have all been seeing these days. They have actually been increasing awareness about Ngcela ubuye Futhi Tembe, simshayele tandla asa kangembili. Joining us from Nairobi in Kenya is Caroline Kobesh. She works for the World Bank as a digital specialist. However, she is not isolated from Eswatini. She has spent some time here doing some on EMA digital diagnostics. So she does have an idea in terms of what is happening within the digital space in Eswatini. She has engaged with various stakeholders as well in the market. And then we have Miliswa Mamba, who is also born and bred in Eswatini. She's a business owner. She serves on the board of Business Eswatini and is the managing director of Transmagnifique, which is our shuttle service lesihambisako mangabe sithi sifuna kuya kuboJozi noma siya kuphi. But she was also in 2006 the first chartered information systems auditor la Swatini. So this is a matter that she is quite close to and is actually clued up on in terms of digital transformation. They will be joining us remotely, so ngidacela kuhlala mina ngidawucoca nafuthi coming from here. But maybe to start off the conversation, my question will be to Caroline, or even to Miliswa, just to say digital economy. We are hearing the word, we are using the word, we are hearing about its 15.4% contribution to global GDP. But what exactly comes to mind when we say global economy? Ngathi akakhona ukusiva kahle angathi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All protocol observed. Siyambingelela Namashe. Higher the communication
be great.
Obviously. Nema suppliers, nema stakeholders, nabo badinga ukuthi sikhona ukusebenzisana online. And sekuvule even bigger markets. Angibekise asithi ibhizinisi ikhicita timpahla lebesitithengisa la eVeni. But nyalo sekunemathuba ukuthi leto tinto sikhona ukutithengisa beyond the borders of Eswatini. So customer nyala kusasiwe just eMaswati lesihle tinawo la eVeni, but umhlaba wonke jikelele.
Thank you so much, Miliswa. Futhi, I wasn't sure whether she had concluded, but Futhi, your organization has now made a conscious decision to move towards being digitally transformed. I think we woke up yesterday to a blitz in the media in terms of ENPF and being the digital transformation champions in Eswatini, and I think there's an opportunity for organizations to learn from you. But what was the main motivation behind this move?
Thank you so much, Visiwe. Ngingaphenduli ngathanza ngekucala kuvusela our honorable MPs, senators, and all protocol observed. To answer the question, I would like to first put into perspective the discussions that we will have. We are there to serve the nation. Ngendlela yeku kollega, we are mandated to kollega the contributions, and then sithuma sesifika kubo retirement bese siyayibhadala lama contributions including interest. So currently ENPF has a membership, excess of 150,000. We work with employers, I think we are all aware, in getting information. Currently the number of employers, it's in excess of 6.8 million. So covering 6.8 employers and 140, in excess of 140 members. So imotivator lesabanayo, the coverage inkulu kakhulu. So we needed to come up with innovative ways of reaching the membership. So we needed to offer we needed to offer a superior customer experience. So that was the first motivator. Ngingathanza nje kubuyisela sonke emuva lesaqala khona sidlela Nfongeni. Organization that started 1974. Everything was manual. Coming from a past here, we printed mass statements because it's a monthly communication with our members, especially the employers. So we'll print the forms. Sibese siyawaposa. So it was time consuming. It was not an effective way of reaching our membership. So we just wanted to improve the customer experience. So that was the motivator. And secondly, we wanted to reduce EMA costs because our costs were escalating. They were alarming, yet we need to always contain costs for us to give back in terms of interest to our members. So that was, those were the motivators in summary.
Thank you, Futhi. I think that's given us a better picture in terms of your project. I would like to then pose a question to Caroline. my first question would just be in terms of the report or the research that they have been doing in Eswatini, maybe for her to just give us a picture of our policy landscape, especially talking about issues of our infrastructure and also our platforms and their ability to then support the projects that Futhi is talking about, or even some of the benefits, unlocking them, some of the benefits that Miliswa has also alluded to.
Good morning, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, so thank you very much. My name is Caroline Koech. I'm a digital development specialist from the World Bank. I'm representing my colleague who was unable to join you today physically, Mr. Wakile. He sends his apologies. So just coming back to the question on the global economy, so we see that there's been rapid digital transformation, which has reshaped the global economy, and it has permeated virtually every sector in our daily lives, such as working, trade, learning, and public and private services. And the global economy was worth about 11.5 trillion, which is about 15.5% of the world's overall GDP, and is expected to reach about 25% in less than a decade, which is quickly outpacing the overall economy. However, our countries back here in Africa, including Eswatini, we are currently just capturing about a fraction of the growth potential, and there's need to strategically invest in the fundamental elements of our digital economy to be able to keep pace. So some of the questions that have been asked to speak about on policy landscape, digital infrastructure and digital platforms, which most of really emanated from the research that we have done. On the policy landscape, we found that Eswatini has strengthened its regulatory environment in areas such as infrastructure sharing, interconnection and licensing, and also in the wholesale broadband pricing. However, key policy and strategy documents may still be absent, or they may be postponed for a later time, such as the digital strategy, which is currently underway. Some of the strategic frameworks relevant for the digital economy exist, such as the e-government strategy, but actionable roadmaps for implementing these strategies may still be missing and could be worked on. And again, a whole of government approach is needed for the digital economy. As the current institutional frameworks are currently fragmented and do not cut across ministries. So there is need for a whole of government approach. And on digital infrastructure, and I think this has been spoken about by many of the speakers today, we found that mobile infrastructure is relatively, or well, not even relatively, it's well developed actually. And we had earlier in the morning session that MTN is now coverage over 90%. But fixed broadband infrastructure is still underdeveloped, and this may be due to the existing monopoly and lack of competition in that segment. We also see that the affordability is a big barrier in advancing the digital economy, and prices have remained quite high due to limited competition in the sector. And there's also a wide gap in terms of usage, with mobile coverage of over 90%, but usage is broadband usage is at about 35%. That shows that there's a significant number of people who are not using the internet, and this could be caused by various reasons. It could be affordability, it could be lack of local content, and those are some of the areas that need to be looked into to bring in more people to be able to use the internet. Just finally on the platforms, platforms for the key government functions exist, such as the digitized national infrastructure, HR management systems, health systems, among others. However, there is also lack of interoperability, and that takes us back to the whole of government approach, which results in redundant data collection and lower quality services. Also, issues around cybersecurity and data protection are also very important elements in the digital economy and need to be strengthened so that we have more people using and having trust in the internet. So I'll just stop there for now, and maybe I can come in later if there is an opportunity to talk about how the World Bank can be able to assist to bridge some of the gaps that have been identified in our report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. That was very comprehensive.
Internet
I think
governance.
it does give us a picture.
The internet.
From my perspective, I think there would be some elements that I would say are debatable, but I guess with, you know, the discussion probably now going into your organization then, Futhi, in terms of the infrastructure and platforms, how has ENPF used those to deliver on what you wanted to do? And I think Caroline has also touched on issues of data protection, on issues of cyber security, how organizations can also make sure that they protect the data of those customers or even those people whose information they get to collect in the service delivery process.
All right, thank you, Fisiwe. I think to answer that, it's going to be easy to answer because the whole week, this week, starting from Monday, Fisile has mentioned that there were articles about ENPF and the launch of the new products. But I will start the journey from 4 years ago when we intentionally took the decision to offer superior experience to the membership of Lidlela Ndfongeni. When we started the journey, it used to take more than 3 months just to update 1 month for each and every employer. So we then wanted to come up with a solution letoba faster. So that solution, it was 4 years ago, we decided to develop an emailing system where all information, especially the NPF 200 forms, and we are aware of the forms, lama kulu, lapho ENPF begawasenda, gufuteni wagcwalise manual and then sent back to the fund. So the move to address the slowness was to create an email which was synchronizing with our system, such that uma sisenda, employer a returner, ivele the information ingene ku the computer system and do the reconciliation. And that really helped in terms of delivery, in the sense that anytime information be needed, be available, one side for langoba sekude the human intervention. But when we developed that system, we knew that there are better ways of servicing our clients. So we started developing an employer portal. Employer portal lesebenda njengasemabhange kusumune licingo lakho ungena online banking ukhone ku interacta ne account yakho. So Monday we were launching the employer portal, and the benefit with that portal is ekutheni you are able to interact, you are able to upload, and you are able to see information ngaleso sikhathi. It's accessible anywhere and anytime. That's addressing the employer part. And then in need lenye lesayibona, we were communicating only with the employers, leaving out the members. So we wanted to pins a communicator with the membership. Ngoba communication with the membership only came uma sekufika to claim. So ngicangisi sonke we are aware ngoba we are employed. Every time sithola ema contributions, we send SMS notification to the members uma sesireceivile. Then this week again we launched an app, which is a member app. Setovumela i-membership yethu ikhone ukuclaima kule app without coming to the service centers. So everything now is accessible online, it's digital, and we are trying to uniketa i-service without you walking into our service centers. Thank you, Fisiwe.
Thanks, Futhi. I think from your contribution, we can see that it's now changing the way that our services are being delivered. However, I think from the business Eswatini, or I would even say from business people, Miliswa will be able to share in terms of some of the challenges. I think as you are speaking, I am now looking at how it will now affect the people that used to do the work that is now being automated, about how businesses that do not necessarily have the investment would be able to afford some of the systems that you've put in place, app development and all those interfaces. So I'm not sure, Miliswa, what you can share around, where you see the challenges or the gaps here, and how maybe as a business or within the digital economy, some of those can be mitigated.
Thank you very much for the question. And just maybe before I start to answer the question, I just want to say well done to ENPF for the new app that has been launched. Because as mentioned previously, as business owners, we need things to work easier and work better. And ENPF being one of the stakeholders, a number of stakeholders have moved more to the digital platform, including so filing your ENPF monthly, filing your ERS monthly or your annually, filing or doing your banking, even services such as water and electricity. Kuyasisita as bosomabhizinisi lokuthi singadzingi to physically go into a place. It also helps us in terms of being able to create level faster. I recently had the experience of using the tool. Ngabona lokuthi le mibuto iba straightforward. Kuyasita lokuthi ukhone kubona ukuthi yini lelekudingeka ukuthi uyifake and ukhone next submitter kahle. The other issues that we faced previously is when you're trying to then make the payment, not knowing what reference must I use for the bank to accept the payment, because then the bank will say, wrong reference, you can't make payment. But now when you're using this platform that they've created, what reference that you need to use for this particular transaction deal. Langati Emma challenges are corner is probably again going to the governance side of the internet, which will be issues that have generally been mentioned, such as the cost of internet, the speed of internet. We are moving and we continue to improve as we leave it to the different levels. We're primarily on 4G, but the speed isn't yet the one that allows us to work as efficiently as we can or as we should. The coverage, I mentioned earlier that you have more people working from home or working remotely. Nakasekhaya akakhoni kuwenda lo msebenzi, so vele yena kuyamphocelela ukuthi angene ngalanga ofisini to be able to perform that function. And then the biggest one is the availability. The fact that kuhle kwendeka nje internet sibebede, but yeah, maybe we'll go into those issues because I understand that those issues are issues that are being worked on and have been improved upon. The one issue that is the greatest struggle for business owners is the online payment. So using the ENPF example, ENPF has this platform, you're able to upload Goguti, what are the different employees that are being paid for, the amounts, and so on and so forth. Nasofuna kubhadala le mali ekumele ubhadale. Awubhadali kule platform, whether it's even layer ERS, former SRA. You go off the platform to make the payment and you go onto the banking application, be it your Netbank, Swazi Bank, Standard Bank, FNB, to perform the process of kubhadala. Kusede le ndlela yokuthi umuntu akhone ukubhadala la enele transaction khona. So angibekise if udele application yasebhange for kubhadala, you then need to go physically in the bank and perform that payment, or you need to go to the banking app to perform that. And from a business owner point of view, our customers are requiring the same of us. Ngabekisa ngati SCS what in Transmagnific. You book your ticket online. After you've made the booking, you want to make a payment. You need to then go to your banking application to make the payment, which then sends the notification to the service provider which Eswatini is lacking, is Guti Emabang akone kusisita goguti le payment module either on the application or either on the business's website. The customer lingating okay, nasang odile lengu oda meleng suge lana nghambe to the banking side to make the EFT. Angbegi se glamanye mave they use applications such as Shopify, ePay, PayPal. On the actual application, you just choose the things that you want, you put them in a shopping basket and you click. That's what to check out. Now to check out, it says put in your credit card details or your debit card details. You put in the details and it takes the money from the bank for you and you're able to do that. I'm not sure if the banks are represented here today, but and from interaction with the banks, the understanding is it's a regulatory issue. Why, as a nation, we're not yet able to do that whole process seamlessly. Thank you.
Meliswa, important insights being shared there. I am unfortunately running out of time, so I'll just do a round robin with my panel members just to close this one off. Maybe starting with Caroline. So in terms of opportunities, gaps that you see in the region, I know that you've done work in different countries within the region. Obviously looking at Eswatini alongside its peers, where do you see the gaps and opportunities as we move to a more digital economy?
Sorry, I was battling with my mute button. So yeah, so I think in terms of how Eswatini is doing in comparison to its neighbors and similar economies, I think the percentages of adoption of internet services is relatively similar. When you look at Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, they are all ranging in the 30% or going into 40s. And as I said earlier, what are the key issues and why are people not using internet, even when it is available in the areas where they live? What is the problem? And those are some of the things that we really need to look at, in things around digital skills, affordability of the services, relevance of the local content, and data protection issues and security, and whether we really have trust in in using these systems. And just because of time, I would also want to just say the role of the World Bank in supporting our countries in accelerating digitization, and what are some of the steps that we need to do to get into the right trend, and so as to be able to reach the universal service access goals that have been set by the Africa Union. And so we look at this in three areas, mainly connectivity. And we're looking at expanding coverage to underserved areas and improving spectrum availability and affordability, and also promoting competition and infrastructure sharing. So those are the areas that the World Bank would come in to support Eswatini in coverage and connectivity. On data infrastructure, we are looking at issues around digital ID and data sharing. Also, data center capacity, which I know Eswatini has a state-of-the-art data center, and what is the best way to make use of it. And also strengthening trust and resilience, that is cybersecurity and data protection acts and operationalization of this. And then finally is the usage of the services. What do we do to ensure affordability of devices? And could there be innovative ways of financing these devices so that everybody can be able to get access to a device and you make use of the internet? And then also addressing issues on digital literacy and the lack of IT skills for jobs for the future. So there's need to prepare the citizens for jobs for the future by ensuring their digital literacy. And then have use cases that are relevant to our situation. So not picking use cases from Europe and trying to come and bring them to our own countries, and they don't make sense. So what are some of these use cases that are relevant to us? So those are the areas that I think if we tackle them together, then we could, increase the usage of internet and grow our entrepreneurs who are making use of internet to make some income in our African countries. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Caroline, Miliswa says vile guti indlela lapho baqashi noma labo labaqashiwe noma labanema business nalabo labathengako bangasalela emuva kunasi silwane lekuthiwa yi-digital economy. What would be your final words to anyone that's in business or even an employer or employee? How quickly or how to fully embrace the direction that we are moving in?
Thank you very much for that question, Fisiwe. When you see something, and you haven't tried it, it can be very scary. And njengoba Mhlonishwa mentioned earlier, now kuluma technology is very technical and isingisi. Kuba lula ukuthi umuntu ayesabe to a point that they don't even try it. And yet, I'm going to make an example. If umuntu lojwayele kushayela imoto leyi manual, watesta wafunzela kushintsha amagiya, and you're now comfortable and familiar with lokushintsha amagiya. Unawunika imoto leyi automatic, ubaneka ukuthi sekumele ngicalele phasi ngiyofunza, and you're scared of it. But the minute you try it, you realize that wonke lo msebenzi lebengisolo ngiwenda ngishintsha amagiya angisadzingi kuwenda, and le ndlela engiyisebenzisa konyalo ilula kwenza le ndlela lebengiyisebenzisa. So my advice would be try it. Get the link, click on it. Even if you have someone sitting on your side, and often it's the younger people are more willing to try. So even if you get the youngest person on your team to sort of sit by you as you go through the process, because they'll be more willing to try. But the minute you've tried it, you'll realize that it actually does make life much easier. It saves you time, and in business, time is the most important thing you need. So it gives you time and convenience, and it gives you a copy, because nema paper you can lose the info, but with technology you can always refer to it. So it gives that convenience. So my advice would be just try it, and then you'll realize how much it makes a difference to your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. As a parting shot, 40, digital transformation, what would be your advice or even motivation to other organizations that are considering it going forward?
All right, thank you. I think Melissa has summed it up. It makes life so much better. And the journey hambago, there is no turning back, in the sense that it's now technology is determining where we are going. We all know that we are now fourth industrial revolution, where it is said, good see, if we do not adapt, then the technology will take over. It's either you adapt or you die. So that's my parting conclusion, yeah.
Thank you so much. That ends our session, our Honorable MC. I am not sure in terms of questions from the floor or even from our live stream platforms. I know that there are questions probably being raised on our live streaming platforms. And within the audience, I am not sure who is managing the microphone for us. Our panel members are still available to answer, so they will take the responses. Calling up PS.
Thank you very much, Siyabonga Khulu, to the panel for that insightful contribution to this forum. My question is directed to you, Mage Futitembe. I want to know the measures that you have put in place in terms of massive awareness of your customers. You talked of a couple of millions of customers, if I heard you very well, over 1 million. And I want to assume that the type of customers you have, Ngulabale Makaya, Bobabe, Nabomage, probably you may struggle also to understand your app, which I suppose it's probably in English. Translation into Siswati. That's my second question. The first one is what measures have you put in place in terms of awareness? I think one thing that I've realized over the years is that even when you buy a smartphone, it comes with so many applications, so many apps, but most people don't even know what these things are. They only use WhatsApp and a few Facebook, Instagram, then the rest about 70s. Thank you.
Cha mina bengifuna lokuthi ngibonge kakhulu kuna intervention le kuthiwa yendiwe ikakhulu kaDlela Ndvongeni. Umbuto wami ngekuthi njengoba nalaba ngibona ba contributor kulaphana sibe nemahlandla lamaningi athi umcashi hawu cha hawu ngiyakufakela mina kaDlela Ndvongeni. Kuhambe itinyanga encane yacoshwe nokucoshwe lo muntu basuyohlolela kaDlela Ndvongeni akhanze ukuthi kude umcashi bekakufaka. Lo mbuto ukuthi itawuvele kutawufika kulezi zinga la ekutheni nalona lo abone ukuthi wona umcashi naye vele uyithethe nje le mali yami uyimixile le kaDlela Ndvongeni. Awu singakubonga kakhulu lokho singabonga.
Thank you. I do not see any additional hands, and I'm not sure if anyone is picking up on the questions from the streaming platforms, but maybe Futhi, you can take those two. I think they are both directly for your attention.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ngembuto wa PS. Lemibili. The first with regards to the awareness. In trying to drive awareness to both employers and the members, we continuously have education forums where siyaleta inkundleni sitoba funzisela khona. We partner with a lot of institutions, including Bosedco, where uma baya for road shows nathi siye khona and try to educate our members. We also are trying to use the other ways of kufunzisa boredo let's believe khona kuyafika, you know, le emakaya. And then we also try to use even the print media. And for our young membership, sikhona go onke ma social media platforms. In terms of the translation to Siswati, thank you for that. We will consider. Siyathemba nje ukuthi sidothi uma sesibuketile kunokuthi kubhale ngalesingisi sathi ukuthi sikubhala nga both Siswati and Singisi. So thank you for that suggestion. Kuphendvula our honorable, ngingathanza kusho ukuthi vele sesivele sikhona lapho, whereby on a monthly basis, after si receive le mali from the employers, there is an instant SMS notification lesibese siyisendela lunga to say sesi receive imali yakho lenganga malini for yipi inyanga. Vele the drive yalogo was to communicate and besitama ku addressa le issue ye compliance ngoba besibona ukuthi kuyendeka vele ba deduct bese abasa remit. Currently, we send to 67% of the membership. Le drive le sikuyo nyalo ngloku kollega le tinombolo so that we have 100% of ema contact details or cell phone numbers for our members. I think ingagcina lapho. Thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you for your attention. This brings me to the end of my session. Sengidawubisela kumcondzisi luhlelo.
That was an amazing, amazing panel discussion. Again, innovation. Kukhulunywa nge-innovation. Necessity is the mother of innovation, and it is crucial that we create an environment that allows for that to take place in order for efficiency, speed, and proper service delivery. We are very much behind schedule. So right now, kutauta robotics STEM foundation. There's nothing about us without us. The youth has to be here. The youth must be a part of the conversation. And right now, I would like to welcome the STEM Foundation to show us some of the work they do. Thank you.
Sanbonani nina bekunene. Mandla Sithole lokhulumako. Beke lapha etu. Ngihamba naSiviwe Dlamini, mfana Nkosi, a 14 year student lo funza form 2 St Mark's. Ngihamba na Wakile Sfunza, 15 year student lo funza form 2 Gangomane High. Wakile ngicela ucishe ucingo ulishiye ngaphandle. Angicabanga ukuthi khona utalithatha noma ulicishe nje. Ngicela ngikhulume nga-STEM education eSwatini ukuthi yini. Then I will move on and talk about the student in front of you. I will also give them an opportunity to say something about what they are doing. Then nangisakhuluma nga-STEM Education Foundation ngidawube ngisho nokuthi what is our mission, vision, nema goals has Banfana beMaswati. Asisibo bakhulu, I'm a teacher by profession. Graduated khona lakhaya ngahamba ngofundzisa for 10 years in Selsoti High School. Ngingimandla Sithole, 42 years old now, 12 years of marriage. That's me. As a teacher in 2016, after MTN ang pay opportunity to explore skill naso send I 21 day of yellow care ngi introduce ema robotics 616 wetikolo leti semakhaya eSwatini. A successful program leya launcha STEM education eSwatini. Ngingithishela ngacela labanye ukuthi singakwenda lokhu. What does eSwatini Foundation for STEM Education does? Imission yakhe ku incorporator and conceptualize sikubise la kangwane kube kwethu eMaswati ema programs labe successful aka science, technology, engineering and mathematics emavende sesiwabuka ukuthi athuthukile ikakhulu aseMerica nase Europe. Siyawabuyisa lama program la kangwane siwabuke ukuthi ayangena yini ku space sethu curriculum yeMaswati angangena kanjani. Sisebente nabothishela, sitrain abothishela, sike saba nje nema bootcamp before COVID bese kangi4 kusukela nga-2016 abothishela siba trainer ukuthi bayoqalisa ema robots program etikolweni tawo. 2019 before everything closed, STEM education eSwatini bekana 44 wetikola lebetenda iprogram yakhe, sina 68 wema clubs. Ngenhlanhla lenhle kuba netihlobo tenkosi leti njengemaMerica, leti njengabo MTN, naletinye tinhlangano ikakhulu tangesheya leti phathelene nawo ema robotics. Tisipha imaterial siyifaka etikolweni, sisupporta abothishela ukuthi baqhubeke bayende lama clubs. Bese sirana i-national competition la kangwane. Siranile nga 2016, 2017, 2018 and 2019. Kwase kuyema konke nga 2020 njengoba nathi ukuthi kwendekani. Siyayirana ke le competition. All the schools that participate, they come and compete in a game of the mind, robots, meaning they program or they design, build, and program a small machine. Curriculum yethu iqala kulabancane H4 iziyofika kulabadzala H16. Laba H16 seniyabona ukuthi bosondonzima sebasebenza ngema metal components. Kanzila labancane Lego plus Lego equipment kungangabo ngathi ngema toys kanzi siyabafundzisa. So ithi ngawina ke i-team yala kangwane sibone ukuthi ayinayike lebe ingcono kunawo onke sithwale simikise kuma international competition. La khona ifike icompete. Ngenxa ukuthi sisafunza vele le skill besisete kahle. To be honest, this is the first team solo saqala kusebenza lebe prepared 6 weeks ready, 6 weeks before competition. Ukuthi iyo computer ikakhulu suke sizame siqinise amabhakodi on the last minute sekumele sihambe siyokhompyutha sibuye nendvuku yembangandlala in most cases. Imission yethu ke ngileyo kubuyisa lama programs siwende abe program eMaswati alungele bothishela beMaswati phecelezi conceptualization of the program ilungele lokulesikwendako la kaNgwane bese sesiyayifaka kubothishela siba train si provide the material hayi ukuthi provide ngamakhikhi a STEM education udimali STEM nginetinini tenkosi leti sipha imali ukuthi sikhone thenga material sinike bantwana nabothishela ukuthi basebenze i vision ukuthi every young child lokhona nyalo esikolweni in the next 5-10 years bangema technological leaders ema entrepreneurs lega kule technology field. What does that means ukuthi sitawubona ema startup companies latawuqhamuka tech startup companies latawuqhamuka kulabantu abethu lesibafundzisile skill bangasiqali sebase university ukuthi how this is what we can but babe bakuqale le esikolweni to build solutions tech solutions of current and future problems. So see ne vision ukuthi every young child abe ne opportunity ukuthi abe successful has a tech startup professional nasekakhulile amzala. Ema goals ethu ke ukuthi siyendele program ukuthi ibe accessible to all wonke umntwana eSwatini. That's why our services does not cost. Ningababuta labantwana labasembi kwami ukuthi kepha wathi sithola utawubhadala malini kwenda lokho. Kuneli mhlambe wabantwana emva kwami lo sebenza lemisebenzi lena longakabhadali ngisho cent. Siyenda ibe accessible. We do everything in our power, use our resources, personal fuel and so on. Kufika kalavumisa, kufika emajembeni, kufika Ararat, letinye tikola bengatati nanami, kunaliskola lesengothi, sihambe sisebenze naso, as long as tishela segatite une interest. That is our goal. And broaden the participation yemadvana beMaswati, STEM, ngicela kusenze igama elithi world-class STEM education programs la khona nabathi nasifika ngeshare bathi your country is 10 years behind lelese sikwenda konyalo sithi thina no we are there buka abantu bethu ukuthi bendani buka abantu bethu ba computer nani just like this year the mission ukuthi bayifile presence eMaswati si ngidakhuluma short ngaGeneva shortly sifuna ukuthi bayifile presence eMaswati nasifika nje bangathi sesitawudlala na eSwatini we are going for 3 points here no they should know ukuthi this is eSwatini this I hope bangithembisa abantu abami then that is our goal has STEM education eSwatini silele phansi ke ngesisu ngenxa yenzaba ye COVID-19 has sitting lapha ngibuka bo WhatsApp messages babothishela the program launched America ngaka 9 August we are quiet Sithole what's happening ngiyawa scrolla nje ama message angikhona ngisho kwaphendula because we are down in our stomachs like silele sibabhalele kude indlela yokuthi sisukume ngenxa yema resources after the COVID-19 like eMamerica bekagatse ukuthi siqhubeke siqhude sisebende abe athi uhulumende wakaNgwane no extracurricular activities etikolweni at all so bongeke bese sophambana nemthetho kwahulumende lokho kwenda ukuthi bese labalenge abathi anisiko serious nine anisebendi sitawuvala le mpombi yemandi meaning we are not sending any resources to Eswatini because was not active during the most difficult time. Kwase sekubita ukuthi this year sithi shaye emakhikhini ukuthi silanze materials sibise kaNgwane so we couldn't do that. But sitawuzama we might be late for next year's because the American program iqala nga August to April the following year. Now we are in September. We might start in January. 5 months later, we will start. I hope lo 44 wetikolo utawubuya abe active by 2023. Let me talk about First Global, First Global Challenge. Every year, kune competition la khona ingabuke ukuthi bantfwana bayati bawinile eveni or what, but they sitawuqala ngaleyo nakha. Yes, sitawuqala ngaleyo. Just ngicela ukuthi uyidlale just a minute. Ayibuke ukuthi how competent the kids are, but it's here is a challenge. We are throwing it to you as Emave. Engage bantfwana. It's a competition. We will pay for their accommodation, flights, and everything. Let them come and compete in the world stage. It's more like Olympics. The opening ceremonies, the closing ceremonies, all the activities. It's just that it's only Olympics for our brains, because this is not physical power that produces this, but it's your brain or the kids' brain power. We'll start with the invitation so that you understand how did all this begin for 2022. The first video. Quality. First Global Challenge 2022. The world have been invited, bantfwana laba between 14 years to 18 years, to ngakhuluma le challenge shortly, to tackle one of the biggest current challenges, which is global warming, by coming up with ideas of capturing, storing, transporting, reusing, or disposing carbon-based emissions in the atmosphere. You can count it, methane, whatever that is accumulating in the atmosphere, which cause global warming. That is the challenge. This year is a Geneva, October mhlaka 13 up to 16, a 4-day packed competition. In Eswatini, si announcele ke nga May nakuvulwa lokho ukuthi bantfwana esikolweni sayangisho inhlangano sayangisho kudla kwesikole lesise kalavumisa I high school kaQomtaba were there sibacela ukuthi aba join kwaba khona ke ama applicants langu 32 la joinako la bhalako ukuthi siyafuna ukujoina sakhetha 12 lesasebenta nabo bebaqhamuka esikolweni neting 5. 2 of them basembikwenu. 4 of the 12 couldn't come at IDM for sessions because of transport. Think about it, umntwana lo senhlangano lo funze Bering kumele ete every Saturday IDM for sessions. Umtali lapho ukuphi. So, and we don't have resources to support that. But 8 of them batali labanye nje bapakela ngaphandle batawusupport abantu ababo. They were trying their best to bring the kids. Ngibo ke laba labatawusimamise eGeneva in the next 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks. What were they doing? Can I see the next video? The challenge, yes.
Our world is very different from 300 years ago. Innovation has catapulted us into new frontiers. But it has has also come at a price. Heat-trapping carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere are 51% higher than before industrialization. And each year, collective human activity adds approximately 50 billion tons. Reducing and recycling our current emissions is an important part of the equation, but that alone is not enough. The more difficult challenge is reversing the damage that has already been done. That is where STEM innovation is providing promising solutions. Carbon capture is the process of capturing existing carbon dioxide and preventing it from entering the atmosphere. This already occurs naturally, but the high levels of CO2 currently in the atmosphere are more than natural processes can handle within the time frame we have. When it comes to carbon removal strategies, there are two types. One is augmenting natural processes in land, oceans, and rocks. And second is creating industrial solutions using chemicals and technology. More investments in carbon capture and sequestration solutions are necessary to have the kind of impact we need. Now is the time to reimagine the future of our climate and innovate solutions that nurture a healthier planet for us all. This is our home. Let's take care of it together. The next step begins with you. Welcome to the 2022 First Global Challenge, Carbon Capture.
Their solution as a Maswati of the carbon capture project.
Sanibonani bonkosi. Thine sinye bamfana ngithini besicabanga ukuthi ke ema solutions lesingawenda la kangwane ukuthi kweqala sifundzise laba mfula labakhona about carbon capture. Sikade sibafundise ngema emissions. Kuthi kwente kanjani ukuthi ke now awufutekuleni wena ushise etshani during the winter season. And lokunye bezifuzama ukuthi ke la around the country nasetikolweni ukuthi sihlanye izihlahla ukuthi babone ukuthi ke leti hlahla nato tiyayimunya le carbon dioxide. So okay, look, asikuboni with our physical eyes ukuthi ke leti hlahla vete yayimunya le carbon dioxide. Kuba nema professionals nje bona la checkako. And so thina ngesito le EEA bathi ke bangas provide laba mvula labo labangas check le carbon dioxide. And so our main goal is that usike la Swatini yehlele lama weather changes nje nasikhuluma iqiniso kulamalanga sibone ukuthi ke kuhle kushisa kakhulu and kuhle kubanza kakhulu, and that's our main aim ukuthi ke when it's during the summer season ukuthi ke kushisa and phinze line hayi ukuthi ke lupheke kuna phinze kubanza kakhulu, because lemvolo yethi nesingebamvu kuyas affect vele uma ukhanza usike namuhla kuyashisa yena uyadzina kusasa kuyabanza uve emakhada. That's a lot of pressure to us singebamvu, and that's our goal vele this year ukuthi ke onke lamaswati akwadi lemvolo leyo.
Sanibonani bonkosi. Libito ngingwakhile ngwakasifunza, ngifunza khona kaNgomane ngenda form 2 khona. I'm one of the lucky students laba khonile ukuthi out of the 33 students laba applyile kungena kule program akhethwe abe part of laba labayomelela live la seSwatini eGeneva. Okay. So, considering ukuthi lama emissions have risen and has affected thina sibandfu, thina sibandfu labasha, we have decided ukuthi ematete yintfo yakadzeni, ematete yintfo lebeyivele ikhona, why siyibulale? That is nature. I-nature ke kumele sale siyi-protector. Baye bathi laba labadadisha le climate change noma labadadisha i-climate. Those are the sinks. Ema sinks yini nguloku loku absorba le carbon and loku taw reduce lama emissions lesinawo. So thina we have decided kokuthi lama tete la safile kungaba njani kokuthi siwavuse namuhla. Kungaba njani ukuthi lama tete lawo namuhla sikhulume kokuthi njengoba letinkhomo tiwabulala, there should be rules protecting those areas because it has been proven ukuthi letihlahla letikhula la kulama wetlands ti absorb kakhulu carbon dioxide because we know ukuthi we need chlorophyll and letihlahla leto tahlale ti green tahlale tilihlata. So that's meaning carbon dioxide, photosynthesis will happen at a rate faster, and which means carbon dioxide will be captured at a higher rate. Then we have decided to call it the artificial wetlands because it's no longer nature working it out, but it is now us working it out, making sure ukuthi namuhla lana lelitete livukile liyakhona kusebenta. Once we say it is natural or we say it's an indigenous wetland, it is whereby lelitete alikade labulawa. Lelitete asikade thina sawuhlanyela umhlanga lapha. Lelitete asikade safaka any other organisms leti participate kule ecosystem. So thina we have decided ukuthi kulama wetlands sitawuhlanyela umhlanga, thus meaning nelivela kangwane liya benefita because we have umhlanga as ours, it is us, it is Swazi, so livela kangwane liya benefita in that. So artificial wetlands is a great idea that we have come up with.
Hello. So that's what they will be presenting. 3 things: awareness, planting of indigenous trees, let it absorb more carbon dioxide, as well as kuvusetela wetlands, which will capture more carbon dioxide. That is their project or solutions for Eswatini that they will be presenting in Geneva. The second part of the program is about the robot. We have models here that are representing carbon molecules. The robot has to collect as many as video so that that's how the game will be like, and this is their machine that they have created to solve that particular.
Introducing the official game of the 2022 First Global Challenge, Carbon Capture. In a world where the heat-trapping greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, is rapidly accumulating in the atmosphere, 6 national teams work together as a single global alliance to capture and store carbon, before dividing into regional alliances to achieve effective long-term storage methods and slow the effects of climate change. Robots start the match lined up against the guardrail next to their corresponding alliance station. The match begins when the 2 combustion bins release approximately 240 black carbon elements onto the playing field surface, representing the carbon dioxide emissions generated by combustion, the process of burning a fuel. For the first 2 minutes of the match, the Global Alliance works together to store as many carbon as possible in the central sink, demonstrating the collective effort required to protect our shared atmosphere. Robots can store the carbon directly in the sink, or can maneuver carbon into one of the compressors located in the corners of the playing field in order to compress it for transport to the sink. Once in the compressor, human players can remove the carbon and either place it into a robot, which then stores it, or can directly store it themselves. Points are scored at a rate of 1 per centimeter as carbon fills the sink.
Because of time, we'll cut it there. That is the Robot Games challenge that they are given. In a space, after learning for 2 months, Baba boot camp, the whole team, they produced their solution. Their robot solution, meaning the one that at Geneva, li buta carbon molecules and throw them liwa sinka. And for the first time, sibe reading a robot leli early August, meaning 6 weeks before departure to competition, of which we are much ready to basfile. Imvamisa nasihambile emarobot aseswatini ake angavami performa either akakhona ukuthatha lekumele akuthathe ukustorisha lekumele akustorishe, but this time around we are ready. I will ask just for a minute Wakile and explain how does the robot works, then that will be at the end of our presentation.
Talking about the robot now. Yes, I'll explain. We have these two hubs. We call them hubs. It's a control hub and expansion hub. These are simply Android devices, just like your phone. Sekuthi wona ede screen our display lutho atsinga mine naye ne team yonke sikusebente ukuthi sifake information lesifuna le robot likwende lakilo. We use a Java-based programming. We use Java-based programming basically to program the robot goods. Nangiti yanle yendanjalo, nangiti begale yendanjalo. So as we say, guti lawa ma Android devices, it is just simply like your phone, whereby the operation yakhona is as simple as that after instilling information into it. I'll hand over to Zviwe to talk about the motors.
And then we have 4 co-hex motors la sebenta ukuthi le robots lona lihambe likhona likhamba licollecta lama molecules. And then we also have 3 HD motors wona asebenta kakhulu kule intake nale shoot ukuthi ke likhona lokhambisa lama molecules kanje. And yes. Yes, and then apumelana and then say I shoot. We shoot about 3 meters, approximately 3 meters high, and less careful it's 2.5 meters. And pins sesiba nema 7 motors wona, about 10 7 motors, and most of them are like liner. Liner yona isebenza ukuthi ke le robot ikhona ukuphakamisa le robot, ikhona la hakeka khona kule sink yethu, and then seliphakamisa le robot.
And then the other material is just hardware. Hardware, tinsimbi njoba nibona, tinzambo and so on, lokuhlanganisiwe. But the system is just the Android system and the motors, lekungema server motors, including ema HD motors, la fakiwe. Lolo kunye ungakufuna ngisho stolo ubuye utakufaka lapha kwakha le robots lakho. Demonstration nitayibona ngaphandle ngoba nasicala kushootha lapha kunalabadzala. Siyabonga. Ningathatha nihambe. Ningathatha nihambe. Bangaphendula ngoba kuthiwa banibodi.
Lesigatsa lesilokhuluma ngaso mlomdzana. Kwendeka kanje, First Global usenda ikit. Ikit inalama components, lokho kukodwa. Kwakho kokuthi nithi nihleli phansi ningile team nibuka le challenge leninayo ngaloyo mnyaka. Nithi kodwa yini lesingayakha ukuthi itackle le challenge le. So I can proudly say ukuthi lokho yowina eGeneva ngaOctober. Le robot lesikatsa itawubuya libe treasure yakangwane, because this is the mind. These are the minds of the black young children of Eswatini. No further questions, we may go.
Ngicela nibashayele intandla please. Hey, nginitshelile ukuthi namhla kuyavutha. No, as I was seated and listening, ngicela kuni-challenge ninge ma-sector leaders to ask yourself the question, uthi boziviwe nawakhiwe bayaphi? What are we doing to retain such talent? Yini legu in place to ensure that this talent siyayitshala ibuye itosebentela thine yakhe ama solutions ethu. That's the challenge I'm posing to you sector leaders, and this is a very serious issue. Bayasho ukuthi they are struggling ngabo funding. Ngiyise Minister of ICT. Ngendela what? Cha mhlonishwa wonke umuntu la unenzima lekufuna idlale la. Masifuna ifunding nemithetho siyeta endlini enkulu. So everyone has a role to play in the ecosystem and uteka yona mhlonishwa kufuna ngabe vele sesinema answers. Lesisho ukuthi le talent lengaka stay retain siyi support esiyithini. Without speaking any further, ngidawucela kungenisa the second of the last panel. Lapho khona kutabe khuluma nge-building trust and safeguarding human rights on the internet. Because in as much as we are progressing, in as much as sichubeka developer, kufuna singalimati emalungelo ebantfu, hayi ngoba i-technology, hayi ngoba kunani. The panel discussion will be led by Ms. Lungile Mnisi, who is an advocacy and coordination manager at Kango. She is seasoned in the area of civil society organizations, and she's very qualified with regards to human rights. I would like to welcome Lungile Mnisi, and I would like to trust you with time.
Thank you, Program Director. All protocol observed. Utangicolela Program Director, so press like miskhathi kanizliwe nguye. Anyway, I think without further ado, in the interest of time, nitangicolela sitago kichikijima vele ngoba ndiyamva ngifuna isikhathi. I-panel yethu lesitayi introducer ndawuhamba na Dr. Metfula, who is from the academia, and Giyo futhi sina Mr. Simelane, who is from ESCOM, the regulator, and sina Ms. Cebile Manzini Henwood, who were coming together from the civil society sector, and there is Mr. Mlinzi Lamini from law enforcement. So he balanced the panel yami. So without further ado, I think I will give them the opportunity to briefly introduce themselves in like 30 seconds. Because that's going into injustice. You know, when I was still a so and so there, so I'll give them the opportunity to take 30 seconds to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Small call. Greetings extended to the international, internet governance forum and all participants, including bonke abantu abadala abakhona ngaphakathi endlini. Ibito lami ngingumlinzi bakadlamini ngwezulwini khona la kule tindzawo. I'm in the Royal Eswatini Police Service, where I am a detective constable, investigating financial crimes as well as cyber crimes. I'm currently stationed at the Ohoho Police Regional Headquarters in Babane, where I'm in the Financial Economic Crimes Unit, but my main emphasis is on cyber crimes. I think there's a lot we are going to impart today, hopefully. Hopefully, stawuvana. Ngibonga kakhulu ukuthi sesibeza kushintsha na language ukuthi ungawasebenzisa onke. Ngawe isho sikhona le stawuhamba sikuthethe. Siyabonga.
Thank you. 30 seconds, please. 30 seconds introduction.
Sinivusele bekunene, ngingandile Methula mina. Sivusele Nkosi yami PS CE Timpunga. Nalaba qhamuka endlini yaba high school. Nanonke bekunene ngingandile Methula ke mina. I work for the University of Eswatini. I teach computer science. Kunengile ngakusho kepha ke lungile utangishaya. Angigcinela.
Good afternoon. I am Cebile Manzini Henwood. I work for an organization called Restoring Laminin. It's a local NGO, Christian-based NGO, focusing on issues of human sexuality from a Christ-centered, value-based perspective. And yeah, I'm very grateful to be here. And with your permission, Honorable Mhlonishwas and Board Director, I will speak in English because we also have Caroline online, isn't it? So I think to be fair to Caroline, who is in, I think she's in Kenya, but yes, in Kenya. I'll speak in English. Thank you very much.
All protocol observed. Ngustelos Melane. I work for the Communications Commission under the Legal and Compliance Department. Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists. Without further ado, our session or our subtopic, we are interrogating building trust and safeguarding human rights on the internet. As you see, Honorable Flo, lana si qukethe impela, so siyethemba lokuthi what we're going to deliver without khona ukuthi senza tonke tingoni in the sphere of human rights. We are going to interrogate the extent to which our legislation in the country safeguards human rights on the internet. Unasikhuluma ngema rights that relates to the internet, isikhuluma the rights to privacy or confidentiality, freedom of expression, access to information, etc. And we also are aware that there are certain instances where, if we are to be fair and honest, the human rights are absolute, and I think that would hear some more from our panelists, and also issues of cybercrime. Sina law enforcement la lotase weta kulelo bloho, and we are also going to interrogate the social aspects of it. Nangisuka nje kuseni umfana muhlekile ukuthi ngidala because ngilihlobo lelithi na uthathe icingo lami when into lenga understanding yakubita ukuthi ubita ukukhipha. So we'll also engage about that, children in the internet and other social aspects that links to that. I think I would start with Dr. Metfula here, just to assist us in understanding the session really, or rather the topic we're about today, the sub-theme. Why is trust important on the internet, and how does it connect to cybersecurity?
Thank you so much, Nisi, for giving me this opportunity. Vunganze, I was happy when you talked about Inzaba SWAT. I'm going to say this topic as SWAT. Building trust and safeguarding human rights on the internet. Kwakhalitsemba negu katsa noma ke kuciza emalungelo ebantu kuleti tabongcondo machine noma ke kuxhumana sisebenzisa tabongcondo machine. Lenzaba lena is I'll go to the notes that I've prepared ngesingisi, but ngifuna kuqala ngikusho ngeSiswati. Lenzaba lena bekunene is important ngokuthi isisekelo sako konke lesike sakhuluma ngako namuhla la. Kufanana nani? Kufanana kokuthi na uya esondweni noma ngabe uya kuphi ubekusile Vunganze nganyangwabe na uye enyangeni. Into ecala lekwendawo ukuthi uphume ekhaya uye enyangeni uye esibhedlela uye esondweni noma uye kuphi ukuthi unelithemba. So nyalo ke lesikubuka kola sibuka ukuthi ke yini le yenda umuntu abe nelithemba kuleti tabongcondo machine, yini le yenda umuntu abe nelithemba ku internet. Imende lo muntu alale ebusuku makelungile nje ungumntali, she's just told us that she's a parent. Yini le yenda makelungile alale ebusuku athi ukuthi umntana wakhe ngale ekamerweni lakhe uhledu uyayisebenzisa le computer alale akhululeke ukuthi kude lokubi la kwendako la kuleti tabongcondo machine. So kumlethela lithemba ke lokho make mnisi. So sikhuluma ngaloko ke. The importance of the internet cannot be overemphasized. It is at the center of our lives. As slethe nje la sonke setingcingweni, sonke sinetingcingo. Now, like all my inventions, it does have its share of unintended results. Le tinto lotsina ngabe bowakha into uthi khanze setendeka ibe na uqala kuyakha lento noma lebo kwakhela kona kunga ngathini. Lobo ngakakayakheli kona gcine sekwendeka. Njengokwakha njengelicingo nje. Nabakha licingo nje kubhaza nabakha bebangakakucabanga but siyakwenda. It's an unintended consequence. Ngamtshela nje nanga umngoni ngithi mngoni ngidakubhaza bese soyaphuma. Nabakha licingo bebangakakucabanga ikubhaza belunga abazange sebeze bakucabanga ikubhaza but siyabhazana. It's an unintended consequence. unintended results, especially, especially when negative, lama unintended consequences, lento lebengakakhelwa kona lesesikwenda, it tends to affect one's faith or trust on that product or innovation. Kuyalimata lelithemba lalo muntu kulento. Nga 2019 bekunene singavumelana sonke besikhona nga 2019 nabo wakhile bebakhona nga 2019 wabebasesebancane kunalo but bebakhona. We saw something we've never seen before. The start of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China, nakuyophela umnyaka 2019. What happened was that scientists from all over the world, they came together. They came together, batowakha ini, batozama kuthola sisombululo sana inkinga nayo besibhekene nayo ekuthiwa i-COVID-19. Many months later, they came up with what? With a vaccine. Some of us here are vaccinated, labanye abaka-vaccinate. One of the biggest enemies of this vaccine that was invented is what? It's trust. Because it's a new invention. The internet nayo, bekunene, is not immune from that. It will have that hurdle. Every invention leyake yabakhona emhlabeni solo umhlaba wasekelo, it has faced that hurdle. Ngisho nendiza, the Wright brothers, I made this example in 2020. The Wright brothers nabaqala nje kwakha indiza bakhwele to the moon basibantu hey labantu laba bayaganga laba but awubuya past that because it's a new invention. It's the same thing with the internet. The internet I get through. Now, the issue of trust, it's a big thing. MTN, mobile, if there is one thing that is an enemy of innovation, ukuthi labantu banalo enelithemba kulento lento ungafaka yonke infrastructure oyifunako ufake bo 5G ufake konke lokufunako nawe nangabe siyoke sifike ku 6G star ufika masinyane ufake konke but if labantu bedelithemba kulento lento we are wasting time. I-uptake kuthathwa kwe-technology kudependa ukuthi ngiyayithemba yini lento longilethela yona. It means different things to different people. Lenza baye trust. For professional citizens like yourselves, it means being able to protect professional data, transacting in a secure way. Nangithatha imali yami ngena ku platform yasebhange lami ayilahleki le mali. It means being protected from misinformation, threats, privacy. For businesses, ngiyambona nje umphathi wami akade nangibabedlamini sinaye. Businesses, it may mean secure banking platforms. Secure banking platforms and being able to protect institutional data. Lolwati lwetinkampani, lolwati lema-organizations lasuka khona. Mina nje ngisuka emvasi. If there is one thing that's a protector ngempilo tethu tonke emvasi yini ma-results ebantu. So it's lithemba then. Now Hulumende the same thing unaloko. Hulumende again umsebenzi wakhe mkhulu because he also has to protect you and I from misinformation, from threats. So going at these things, they affect the trust. Lithemba la hulumende la nayo kulama systems esiwasebenzisayo. Indzaba ke lenkulu badali, parents, all of us are parents. Noma ngabe umntwana ude ngeSiswati ngumdala. Learning institutions, it is online safety. Is safety emntwana online. Kuthi lo mntwana wendani lapha lokahlela lapha licingweni ubukani lo mntwana. That is trust kulo mntwana. Predators, protection from illegal and harmful content, issues of identity theft. Bayayebi identity yabantwana labanganganawo bowakhile bayithathe la identity yomntwana lona asinakafika ku 24 years atkanze sekanethi kweleti models lo mntwana 21 lona tikweleti ngakuthatha they stole the identity yomntwana. All these things they affected the trust. Lenza baye trust imgcoka ifanana nemfundisi nakashumela ifuna ikhulunywe kusikhathi singasiso. Because now ufundisa umuntu ufuna kumchinja umuntu. Ufuna uyikhuluma thanza uyikhuluma ngathanza. That is why I said this session, your session Mnis, is very foundational, very profound because it supports everything that has been said here since we got here this morning. For human rights advocates like yourself and activists, Indzaba ye Trust, it touches on issues of privacy, data protection, illegal and harmful content, protection of rights of women, children, nagogong. Kuma journalists, it means being able to express their views and being protected from threats. As different sectors, different stakeholders, different disciplines, we have expectations that hlukene nge-trust. But from the same thing. Hulumende ufuna lokho from the same thing. Tinkampani lefuna lokho from the same thing. Regulators from the same thing. Baneke ucabanga lokwehlukene ngale nto lekuthiwa yi-trust. Abayibuki ngendlela efana. I'll give you a very simple example. Sengidawucetha. Hulumende, all governments all over the world, they have this responsibility. It's a very, very important governments world over to protect their citizens from crime, to protect their citizens from threats. Bonke bohulumende without exception. That's one hand. On the other hand, which makes this thing very difficult, you have human rights advocates. Labathi bona, wonke muntu unelilungelo lokuthi abe ne-privacy. Wonke muntu unelilungelo lokuthi abe nani, i-data yakhe ibe protected. And that is a problem. It's a problem because you now have these two hands. Lona ufuna lokhu, lona ufuna lokhu. And the unintended consequence of lo lokufunwa ngama human rights activists, which is also fine, is that this thing also protects criminal elements. Because there is data protection. Information, because there is data protection. And it's privacy. Because so that is the problem. So what is this saying to us? To address this issue of trust and human rights, we need a serious balancing act. Very serious balancing act. It's a huge challenge for governments. We need to find each other as stakeholders. That's step one. We need to focus on what matters. And this is what matters. What matters to all of us is zero misinformation, zero identity theft, the protection of our kids and young people online, data protection and privacy, without protecting criminals. Without protecting criminals and people lababanga threats. Zero bullying and threats and protection of illegal and harmful content. In Tisha Amnemnis, I can go on and on and on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I will just shoot straight to Umguni there as a regulator. And we've heard that by inference that the government is the first person, like primary duty bearer when it comes to these things. And we, in as much as we are, in certain extent, interchangeably, sometimes the right owners, and sometimes we are also duty bearers in some instances. As the first primary duty bearer, Lana, what is government doing, or what has been done to ensure that our human rights are protected in terms of your legislations?
As Bonga Program Director, and I'm happy to we have Bahlonishwa la. Ule mthetho esitawukhuluma ngayo nje data protection ne cyber sigijimena nabo kakhulu bomake lapha nabo Mhlonishwa Masilela na Deputy Senate. Namhlabata ubona lots why we were doing that. But before I answer, let me start highlighting what is the role of the law, because sitakhuluma ngemthetho konke la kusho konje Dr. la uthi sitaba protector nakude lo mthetho protector, nobody will be protected. But in the internet era, let me go back a bit. Guti nakuqala le internet era, there was a lot of debate. Guti singena something now called cyber. Kuyini le cyber? Is it different from the real world? Am I right now as an individual? Will they be protected when I get into the cyber world? Is it the same? There was a lot of debate around that, such that people were saying, no, now cyber, ngeke sakubita ngekuthi ungumuntu sakubita nge-net citizen, because you're on the internet. So if you're on the internet, now it became a reality lokuthi, shows nangabe internet, am I right sam, nyawa forfeita yin. Then abone mave kuthi ngathi sibhekana lenye inkinga la, sita ne intervention but askai preparish. And then that is when we started coming up with imithetho that will now govern the cyberspace. Because kwabonakala ukuthi if it's a free world for all, devoid of any rules, governors, they'll be created what they called cyber anarchy, where everything in anarchy, consequences. Then it was decided, even though it's cyberspace, the rights now as a citizen, I should not forfeit them. Nasengu cyber world. That's why it's just come again. Now we are living in about cyber security, cyber crime. Those were crimes that were not there. But the crime may very common. But we didn't have the name cyber at that time. Best crime, theft. You know, best crime, but now, nangu pulisha ku cyber world, it became a reality. Also, we needed legislation now to actually govern that kind of the world. And the only way to govern it was that, no, let's pass laws that will govern this space. And those laws would not be actually different from the way we've been doing things. Then government started to come in, and it was clear ukuthi indlela esishaya ngayo umthetho sale sishaya sihamba nale technology. We cannot, of course, catch up with technology, but that is where the issue of cyber crime or cyber legislations came about to govern nainvo lensha la khulume ngayo dokotela ukuthi into yonke nayi intervention kwakukusha ngaleso sikhathi emaveke aqala ayishaya lokunathi nje babe sebasibusisela ke timbunga nengwenyama ngaMarch 2022 ukuthi sale simala lo mthetho. I was giving a background ukuthi sisuka kuphi. If utele imithetho leyo onke lama rights lesikhuluma ngawo today will not be protected. You need the law to protect rights. Sikhuluma ngabo child online. If there is no law against child protection of child online, sikhuluma ngabo child pornography. If there is no law against pornography, sikhuluma ngabo illegal accessing of a computer systems. If kutele mthetho kutakwendela la kushoko daughters tigebengu titawuphuma. I-data protection ke ngiphinze ngibuye nje kuyo. Le data protection nayo kwabonakala as we use these gadgets and as we enter into this internet era, there's a lot of information and personal information that is going through. And we are happy that in our local scenarios, we adopted umthetho nazi with data protection. But it has, if you look at it, it has the European flavor, whereby it is based on the GDPR, umthetho lona wase Europe with data protection. Lo kahle ngawo lo wethu ngilokuthi uvele uthi asibe nje nemthetho we data protection bese ke kulo mthetho we data protection human rights based, because if you look at it, it's protecting rights of information, personal information. Again, it has an lo distincting our lo mthetho uthi even if you want to transfer personal data outside the country, then you must make sure as a data controller where you are transferring the data, they have equal data protection mechanism kulelo live. And as you look at that, it shows that the spirit of the law was to protect the rights of the citizen, the rights of the data information. Ushilo ke dokotela ukuthi yebo nale mthetho ukhona, but I protecta wonke umuntu netigebengu tilakhathi they are protected, but they are protected. Kepha ke I have comfort in that lo mthetho uveri thorough, especially with data protection. It gives we call it procedural in terms of the law. Une procedure ukuthi la ngabe ngifuna information ngadlamini lana, what do I do, especially na ifunwa ngimi noma ifunwa ma law enforcement agents. Awuhambe ehlathini iphinde sisihamba ngasetinkantolo lapho siyawuthola ama court orders ngicela na information nayo nabe kune information le ngidinga ka MTN angiconzi nje ka MTN, but ngayithola le information based on, and lo mthetho is based on the culture of the rule of law and the protection of human rights. So I think we have the best legislations to bring trust. The trust lasikhuluma ngayo namuhla, if we don't have these pieces of legislation, we would be just singing to say there should be trust on the net. But these are safeguards to ensure that the trust ikhona. Siyabonga lokuthi sihambela sefika lokuthi sesinayo le mthetho, but before vele umuntu nakebile nje asebenzisa i-computer system but amcharge nge-theft, which is a lesser offense. But today utawungena la ku-cyber security noma data protection nangabe usethelwe information, and that attracts even more stiffer fines. And the stiffer fines should not be viewed as if it's a way of promoting mhlambe kucilatwa kwabantu, but it is a way of deterrent and a way of protecting ngoba usuke uviolate a right of an individual. So I think the trust will be is cemented by having pieces of legislation and enforcement. And as the regulator, especially under data protection under section 52 of the Act, we are given the role to regulate and coordinate issues of cyber security. And then under the Data Protection Act, it's an even more onerous duty that is given on the regulator, because it confers or it designates the regulator as a data protection agency, which means that any issues of data protection are now have to be dealt with by the Commission. Ngicela ukuma lapha for now.
Thank you, Mnguni. I will turn back to Ms. Tabile Manzini Henwood. Ngidawugcina ngaye ngala ngesencela umlangeni ngesekudla sami umlangeni. Ngoba after all is said and done, singabe especially now khuluma nge-protection of human rights. So, Ms. Manzini Henwood, let's speak about the social aspects here. It's been said even earlier that tindzaba COVID disfake enfeni tebe singakayicabanga sibatali. Back in the days we would say ukuthi bantfwana bethu asifuni baphathe tincingo ngoba ti facilitator incumbi yetinfo sithi siyaba protector nasisho, but kwase kuyasikhanza man sagcine sesikwenda against tifiso tethu thina labanye. And njengoba bengishido ukuthi some of us as parents singilabatali lesima BBCs, you know, born before computers, and in that regard utfola ukuthi vele lento angiyadi ngisho nekuyimanipulator in a way of trying to protect lo mfana angeke ngize ngikhona. So can you tell us some of the concerns that came about ngendzaba ye child protection and the use of the internet?
Thank you, Lungile, and I really appreciate how you keep referring to this as the social issues. And perhaps I should start by saying, yes, we are dealing with a very technical issue, you know, IT, internet. When I got the invitation, I thought, oh my Lord, what do I know about IT or the internet space, you know? But then I realized that, this is a gate. And even if it's a technical issue, we're talking IT and internet, et cetera, we are still human beings. And we are human beings operating in a world that is developing. You know, we've been talking about the developments that are coming, you know, and how we need to adapt and all of that. But we must not forget our humanity and the vulnerabilities that come with that. The fact that we are humanity and we are operating within this world that is changing. And having said that, I just need to highlight that this is warfare. Human beings inherently, we know that we are constantly finding ourselves in a battle between good and evil. There's always a constatation for who we are, our soul, our spirit, our personhood as humanity. And so even this space, this internet space, is a gate. It's a gateway. And so we need to make sure that those who are responsible, if it is SCCOM or the Ministry of ICT, they need to be well equipped to understand what is this war that we are contending with and who is vulnerable. Now, when we are talking about child protection and child online safety, we need to also understand safety from what? What is happening? It shouldn't just be a general statement that we make, and then in our program, when we have a meeting like this, we just allocate a few minutes to talk about it. We need to make sure we talk about it in such a way that we fully understand what it is, how it's manifesting, where it's manifesting, who is involved, who is behind it, so that even when we say we have got legislation in place to ensure that we end impunity, how are we going to do that? What investments are going to be put in place? Now, what we are seeing is that, you know, the lockdowns, for example, the COVID-19 lockdowns, even the unrest, you know, the political unrest that we've been experiencing, have created an enabling environment, you know, for manipulation of the space, where children, we all know, children are carrying devices. A child either has a computer, a laptop, or a phone, and these are unmonitored devices. But the most concerning part is, okay, yes, fine, you know, we are saying, there was a presenter earlier on who was talking about how there's collaboration with the Ministry of Education to make sure that, you know, children continue to have access to education, that human right continues to be upheld, which is good, we celebrate that. But even as we are distributing these computers and laptops, what have we put in there to make sure that measures and safeguards are in place to prevent a child accessing online, even while they are doing their homework, accessing extremely dangerous and explicit sexual content? My organization is concerned about that because that's what we are seeing. We are finding that as we are having these technological developments and children are accessing the internet, they are being exposed to extremely dangerous sexual content, pornographic content, in dimensions and measures that I cannot even imagine, you know, that I cannot even grasp. It's hard for me to understand why anyone would design something in such a way and even set up algorithms for a child to be able to access that information. Let me give an example. We're talking about schooling and a child being able to do online learning. A child has their tablet or the phone to go online, maybe to research on natural sciences or something, or biology. While they are researching on that, what will pop up? Imagery or something else. You know, when you do the, forgive me, I don't quite know the terminology, but let's just say a child will put up something about maybe human biology. The thing that will drop as they press the button, what will drop will be a horde of options, even outside of what that child needs for that subject. Information that no child should be accessing under no circumstances, not even an adult most of the time. Things that the minute the child clicks on that button are registered in the mind, especially because at that age, at a young age, we do know that the brain of a child images, you know, it captures the image. And then a child, by virtue of being a child, will want to practice what they see. They'll want to experiment it. And then what happens? Addiction comes in. It can be addiction maybe to just the fact that there's this digital world that have entered. That itself is also addictive. But then there are these images that come up, these pornographic images. They may not be come across as explicit or extreme initially, but it is enough to lure the person in. And we know pornography is extremely addictive. Even when you do the studies on, in neuroscience shows us that even the structure of the brain changes, the hormones that are released, you know, when people are viewing pornography. It's extremely addictive. So what then happens to a child? So that then reverses even the gains that we are looking to achieve. You know, it counters what we are looking to achieve when we say access to education, making sure that children have access to education, because now if a child is addicted to pornography or is busy looking at these images or is busy being exposed to content which is redefining human sexuality, you know, removing the purpose behind it, the God-given, God-crafted purpose behind human sexuality, and just making it like just a cheap thing for everyday, you know, exploration and, forgive me, I'm seeing a lot of smiles. You know, these are conversations we need to get used to having, you know, in a safe way, of course, in an appropriate manner. But these are the realities so that we can equip ourselves and protect our children and equip parents as well. I have had the opportunity of looking at the cybercrime prevention legislation, and it's very comprehensive, very, very comprehensive. What I would say we need to do, however, is to strengthen the capacity building for parents. You know, strengthen the measures for making sure that parents are not just equipped, but they are also supported to put measures in place. Yes, we can say a parent can have an app on their phone. I thought I had my app, sorry. Maybe my phone. Maybe a parent can download an app on their phone to monitor what is happening with their child and so on and so forth. But we need to go further than that. We need to think about what is the objective behind doing that. When we are talking about internet governance, it can't just be about, we are talking about internet governance so that there's wider coverage, you know, we make sure that we are inclusive. What is the end goal? Human thriving. Let's aim for human thriving. Let's aim higher so that even as we are talking about the different tenets to this internet governance, at the back of our minds, constantly, we are looking at, as we are pursuing this governance, it is for human flourishing. It is for human thriving. That way, we'll be best placed to identify the threats, not just to the governance, but to the human thriving. And things like pornography, the slide that we've put up there is just to show that we are talking about COVID, pandemic, hello, there is a greater one. You could call it dual pandemics, actually. Now we've got the COVID pandemic. This one is unrelenting. The pornography one, the porn pandemic, is unrelenting. And what is so painful about it is nobody is safe. Even our homes, our families, it goes directly. I call this a gateway because it's a mechanism for allowing whatever good or evil straight into the home, straight to the core of the family, into the bedroom that you have set up nicely for your children or for your child, or the bathroom, wherever. It goes straight into your house without your permission, without you knowing as an adult or as a parent or a caregiver. It is a pandemic. It has reached pandemic proportions. We have got our children are taking selfies, they are taking photographs, and yet they are predators and uploading those pictures, sending them on WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever. They are predators, sexual predators, who, because it's a syndicate, they know how to lure the children, and they know which children to target. So while we are busy here in a meeting, chatting, somebody is watching. Somebody is watching that child, knowing, so, okay, this one's parents are very busy, high-profile people. They probably have no time to even check what's going on their phones. They come home tired. You know, they leave that to the helper, whoever's raising the child at home, and not taking responsibility. So it's just to say we need to take responsibility. And something else we are very concerned about is it's called sextortion. You know, where children are posting their images online, at times being invited to do so, you know, and it takes time, you know, they're groomed, they're being groomed. Whoever's on the other side will groom the child. It won't be something that just happens, you know, first time. At times the child would think, this is somebody their own age. The person would be grooming them. Oh, Kapilo, you're looking so good. You're looking lovely. Oh, you're such a special girl. You're so pretty. Please send me a photograph. Oh, I love the one where you're smiling. And then the child will send, oh, you know what? Oh, you're wearing that skimpy top the last time, spaghetti straps or whatever. Can you take a picture in that top? Oh, why don't you lower the strap? Oh, you're wearing a bra. Oh, let me have a look at your bra. And then it progresses. And then what do you know? The child's images, nude pictures, end up online. And sometimes these people then manipulate the children to exploit them for sexual favors, you know, for sexual abuse, and threaten them to say, I have your pictures. I have your pictures. So make sure you send more, or meet me wherever. So just like that, you know, a child will find themselves in bondage. Why? Because we didn't put in place the measures we were supposed to put in place, the systems we were supposed to put in place when we had the chance to do so. at the beginning. We're not quite at the beginning now as Eswatini. I'm not quite sure how advanced this thing goes. And I commend the country, for going in this direction. But then we need to understand that it is warfare. And when there is warfare, we need to be alert, constantly alert and awake. Because unfortunately, these beautiful children who are coming up with these inventions are the very ones who will be wiped out by this. I could stop there for now. Lungile, thank you.
Our previous subsidiary, mouthful, now just to close us off with our law enforcement. We're aware that in the protection of human rights, the issues of accountability become key. And probably just to take us first on the issue of the limitations that are possible on rights. We are aware that rights are not absolute, and hence they are in some instances where the state would reserve the right.
Cybersecurity laws and policies actually have a direct impact on our human rights, particularly the right to privacy. That could be freedom of expression and the free flow of information. Now, law enforcement in Africa, I would say in Swaziland, law enforcement in conjunction with or working together with the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Anti-Corruption Commission, all have undergone what is called capacity building in as far as the Convention of Cybercrime, which was used is the Budapest Convention, which actually seeks in improving investigative techniques, increasing cooperation amongst the nations, and interagency collaboration within the country itself. Now, when it comes to potential limitations to human rights, we should all know that immediately you step on my foot, you have already contravened one of my human rights. Immediately you hit me, automatically the supreme law of the land has been contravened, which means each individual under the supreme law of the land is a person of another. Thus, no one is supposed to actually inflict harm or in whatever sense. Now, the Computer Crime and Cybercrime Act has highlighted, and as my fellow panelist has spoken, that the government has also enacted what is called data privacy. Now, I'm going to speak mostly on Computer Crime and Cybercrime Act in accordance to the right of privacy. Now, the Computer Crime and Cybercrime Act has highlighted a lot of issues, which are highlighted also in the African Union, where we also acquire capacitation in as far as what Maga has said on child online protection, whereby at a certain point in time, a country like Rwanda has already had what is called an Internet Watch Foundation, which is what regulates what comes through to our phones, to our mobile devices, to our computer devices, in as far as monitoring child online protection, as far as Maria said, in sextortion. Now, I will highlight just a few. I'm not going to talk about all of them because we have quite a lot of those potential limitations, but I will speak about what is spoken about on Cybercrime Act, where on sections 5, we have what is called illegal interception. Now, this is when someone intentionally, without lawful excuse or justification in excess of a lawful excuse or justification, intercepts by electronic means any non-public transmission to, from, or within a computer system, or electromagnetic emissions from a computer system. I would like to make an example on illegal interception. Now, I am a business. I am here in Swaziland. I order my stock from South Africa. Now, I'm trying to order stock in South Africa, from a company called, well, let's say, ANC.com. Now, I usually receive emails from someone called Jafta at ANC.com. Now, illegal interception is whereby that communication, for example, ANC wants to bill me for the services rendered. Now, ANC tries and sends an invoice back to my company. We'll call my company REPS. Send it back to REPS. Now, illegal interception occurs whereby there are other individuals who are always watching what that business is doing and want to benefit or have gains in a sense that they want to dupe the company of all their returns. Now, this individual will intercept and probably just change one small detail in what is called the domain. Now, the domain is at ANC.com. Now, someone writes jafta.at.anc.com. Now, there's a difference between those two domains. The first domain, which is jafta@anc.com, that's the original domain, with the original email address for the individual whom I communicate with in South Africa. Now, there's another individual who comes and says jafta.at.anc.com and sends bank details which are different from those that I usually make use of from Jafta. Now, that email has already been illegally intercepted, in which the jafta.at.anc.com will send me the wrong bank details, and I will pay the wrong account in South Africa. Therefore, I've already been duped all of my money. Now, we have to be very, very careful as businesses, as individuals, because as we all know now, we are using cell phones, we're using our computers, our laptops in making payments, school fees, making all sorts of online shoppings. So please be very, very careful, because what will happen is you will pay the money into a wrong account. Okay, I will also, my timekeeper, the problem is, there's a lot that I will highlight, but I'll just touch base on a few points. There's also data espionage. Now, if we've already heard that there's a former Observer employee that has left, we've heard in this conference. Now, data espionage. Data espionage is for him to steal the information from Observer and go and use it to the company he's going to work at next. So as a company, it is very, very important to have safeguards in the information that you have in your databases. One. Number two, also the devices. Also be able to track what your employees are clicking on. Because a study has proved that 45% of all employees in a company are clicking on phishing emails. Those emails you see where they tell you there's a go-go here in Europe who has died and now has got a trust fund that she has left, and then the trust fund, we have chosen you. Be careful. Don't even know that go-go. We only know Queen Elizabeth owned in Europe. We only know Queen Elizabeth, and Queen Elizabeth has passed away. So we have to be very, very careful whilst doing that. There's also illegal devices. Now, illegal devices are those devices which are used by individuals we call hackers. Those individuals use your internet connection to continue and complete their criminal enterprises. There's also identity-related crimes. Now, identity-related crimes, that's the situation whereby you receive an email on the internet or from your phone. Yes, that's an example. Or on your phone, they tell you you have won 250,000 rand from Samsung Electronics, etc., etc., etc. So in order for you to get that money, you need to give us your information. Now, they take that information, like my fellow panelist has said, they take that information and they commit crimes. They create identities. They take a person to school with your identity. After taking them to school, they go to the university and acquire loans and do everything with your identity. Your ID number, your name, your cell phone number, your address, everything. Now, what they do today, they go on Facebook. They tell somebody that I've got an investment, you can invest 100 Rand now, in 2 hours it will be 3,000. And then you insert your information there. They take that information you have inserted on Facebook or you have shared with them on Facebook, they go to Instagram and they go to dupe someone else. They con someone else using your information. Yes.
I think I'll cut over it.
No,
oh
cut
my
it.
gosh.
No. Oh, okay. Ngicabanga ukuthi sengigcina. Ngicabanga ukuthi sengigcina. Lokukhulu kakhulu lokunye lenguvile kukhulunywa nakwekuthukana ku social media. That is called cyberbullying. Umthetho ke we computer crime wala kangwane ucategorize ukuthi I cyberbullying ne cyber stalking kwehlukene but kuphinze kuhlangene. Kanjani ke? Cyberbullying lokusebenzisa lelicingo lakho noma kusebenzisa le computer yakho ukuthi uhamba uyothuka umuntu ku social media, Facebook, ngama message noma ngakiphi indlela le intimidate akho noma le threatenish akho. Also, cyber stalking now categorizes the acts you are to do kuze kuthi which constitutes a crime. For example, cyber stalking use of Internet of Things other means to inflict repeated unwarranted actions on a natural or juristic person. These actions may include false accusations, defamation, slander, identity theft, threats, solicitation, gathering info to be used to threaten or blackmail a person of another. Which are lo mthetho. So it is very, very careful. It is very, very important for one ukuthi abe careful kukonke la kwendawo ngisho ekhaya ungathi ucetha kusenda ungathi na usenda mobile money lo mntwana kumela mva kwakho uyabuka ukuthi pin yakho ithini emva kwalo le mali leyo ayikhanze kuyi noma ayidla delete ama message ngicabane na MTN kana kusuke MTN. There's also human error le khona lapho, as well as preventative methods. Ndawo highlighta nje lamabili program director wami ngosiyami lamabili nje kuze ukuthi labantu balabadzala bahambe baye ekhaya bakhona labakuphethe. Ngiveka kakhulu lesi speaker sikhuluma e-governance. Lokusho ukuthi sekutaba nema portals ka ENPF nangabe ufuna uku-accessa loku-accessako. Bengingacela ku-advocate lokho abangithuma. Bengingacela ku-advocate also to nema service providers ukuthi just like labo social media platforms la basakhelako ema law enforcement portals siyacela nabo bamanye basakhele nathi lama law enforcement portals ngoba nase sikhuluma nzabantu ama court order nje njoba khona la ema court order kumcoka ukuthi information especially less cyber related masinyane nyamalala angeke ufike ukhanze ufike bese uyalandzela kulomkhondo ukuthi ole nkomo behamba la. Oh, okay. Yasishona le. It's very, very difficult and it's time sensitive. Ema crimes la ka cyber. So ku-advocate nje kanami as an investigator because there are a lot of hurdles and kulukhuni lokhu bese so withstand nala bantu sebakhuluma amagama laqinile. Lokunye it's capacity building. The Royal Eswatini Police Service is dedicated. It's dedicated in continuously basicecesha thina njengamaphoyisa nama detectives ukuthi bukucala lokukanjena sikhona ukuthi sizame ukuthi sibugweme njengoba sihlezi kwenda nema awareness ku social media kunelihlelo nje emaphoyisa nesive kaSwazi TV la sihle khona sikhuluma ngadindvo letifana naleti. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you so much to the panelists. I think in the interest of time, you would profusely forgive me. It's a lesson for me ukuthi ngabofunza ukuthi ibhuka kanye ndi ngoba sengicabanga lenye indzawo lengimele ngiyekuyona dona njengoba nathi sigijinyiswa amadona sithina. So sengidliwa isikhathi and I'm sure nelunch yenu seyadleka. Sihluleke kubamba isikhathi thina anyway. But just as a way of summing up, I think we are seeing from the various presentations that have been made today, ukuthi, human rights are most critical. Ukuthi while we are keen on moving forward, nathi sibe ku the cyberspace, there are things that we also need to pay attention to. And we see ukuthi internet somehow by extension ananayo, say iba human rights ngalokuthi it facilitates the realization of some other rights. But at the same time, it also shows ukuthi the abuse of it violates EMA rights. And in that regard, that calls for strong legislations parliament, kubanjiswa nje lapho understanding really in working with the ministry. And we are here as civil society as well to also show a finger nase sekune tinkinga siphakamise sandla anyway not le finger le siphakamise nje sandla kusho ukuthi ngathi sekune tinkinga la siyabonga lokho ukuthi silithola lethuba namuhla lokuthi sibe khona sing civil society kule dialogue. It's much appreciated, and hoping that moving forward sitawuqhubeka sisebenzisane. And also to say accountability measures, maybe what we realize is that we really need a strong accountability measures. Law enforcement nje nakakhuluma ngalama cases lekakhuluma ngawo indzaba yekwa processor speedily, it becomes much more critical. And sidinga variety yalama accountability institutions. Singagcine tinkantolo, knowing very well ukuthi tindzaba tinkantolo, they are expensive for some other users, and siyawadzinga alternatives. Abo ombudsman siyawadzinga alternatives. Human Rights Commission nayo isibambise, and other various institutions. So as a stakeholders sila siyawabona lama gaps and indzaba yethu sonke clearly. And having said that, as well, probably in closing, ngitawucela nje ukuthi two burning questions mhlambe to the panelists before sivala nangabe akhona. Lona utawuvakishisa la ukuthi yathi ikhona ya utawushisa la sifubeni.
Siyalandzela singemva kwalabanye bantu labenta yonke lemgilingwane lesikhuluma ngayo manje ke ngilobo bulukhuni uma siyehluleka kuhlala la lobuntu bethu beyasehlula sinebuhatha sinebantu abamnyama yabona na ukwathi nje ukukhuluma nomuntu wekuhamba caba usongcono wena kunalo thina abantu abamnyama sinenkinga yekwekuthi uma ufunzile ufunza lokufika ema-university ube nama-degree what bese ucabanga ukuthi lama-degree lonawo akwenta ukuthi uhlakaniphile kanti wonke umuntu lofika la emhlabeni uhlakaniphile unenhlakanipho yaNkulunkulu. Ngiko nje umntwana nakaphuma kuneni ugodla tanda so kune program la iphethe from God ngeke kwenjinje nangabe uyadliwa ingwenye ekufeni kwakhe kulata yabo manje ke ngile inkinga thina lesinayo bese sibhidwa ke nginababe laba bekuhamba lokho ngushiso yena ngushiso ukuthi khona isikhathi lapho saba under British protectorate kwagcina kuqasheni nalo umlungu lo bekasi ngiyamkhumbula umlungu bekuthiwa ngumawiki but lo mlungu nakazivalelisa lapha esibayeni wathi Sobhuza ungehlulile but ngikunika 20 years ukuthi utayikhona enlembi letako after 20 years asho kona lokufunza Manje ke inkinga bekunene mina ngike ngithi silahlwa ukuthi kunanana iBhayibheli bese kuba nalama constitution ethu emave ngelive bese ngiyabuta ke lokukhulu kule constitution yethu silive nale Bible ngikuphi lokukhulu. I've got no answer because letinto letila iBhayibhelini so letiyendeka namanje. Now usuthi kwenteka nje something njengalokhu nje lesikiko le now ufunda iBhayibheli labafundisi labafunda iBhayibheli utawukhanza ukuthi uyafunza emavesi ukuthi verse bani uvuma ukuthi sesikunasikhathi nasi. Ngithi ke bekunene naye inkinga lesinayo lamhlabeni uma singafunda nje ukuthi ngathini kubeketelelana ngoba kude umuntu ongcono kunalomunye siyafanana sonke but nasingabeketelelani ngilo ufuna kusholela kakushoko ngilele sikwenta labantwana nje nyalo ukuthi sesibafaka kulo dlambedlu nalo lwale ntuthuko emhlaba ndawusho njalo phinze bese siyakhala ukuthi ungamgadza njani umntwana sengicetha nje make kancane ukuthi uyabona le ensimini yeEden wathi uNkulunkulu kuAdam waqala wakha yena na ufunza le history wagcina sakha nalo make but nakakha lo make wamlalisa Adam wavuka kanza sebababili wasuyabalayela ukuthi lesihlahla lesibangasihle manje lesihlahla sathi so lesiyasifuna so lesihlahla lesi singadliwa sikuliphi live ukhona lo ngangitshela sikuphi lesihlahla sinkulunkulu singadliwa yeah manje ke asisade manje ngisho ukuthi ke sisinebulukhuni bekunene lamhlabeni asati ukuthi sidakwenda njani kufaka le ntuthuko lesesikiyo nalobungethi ngoba kakhulu nasilahla lobungethi sidaba nenkinga sitagcina sima puppet. Thank you sir.
Thank you so much. Umhlonishwa ngathi sosikhulumele sonke. In the interest of time ngicela kumikisa ku program director.
Hey, niyabona ukuthi iyashisa le topic. Idzinga ilanga lonke. Sihlale nje ilanga lonke kube bedene lunch. Lana ngidawucela vele kunibuta ukuthi nabe nisesengakhona yini kuhlalela one more session or can we postpone it to another day? Uzokhulumile umhlonishwa masilela sesidaweni njalo sidayifaka ephosini. The last session was addressing advanced technologies including AI, robotics, 4AR and fintech. However, in the interest of time, we shall invite you to another session whereby we will discuss further. Ngithanda nje kubonga Timbunga stakeholders for staying and up until the end of the program. We do not take this for granted. Kukhulu kakhulu kithi impela nje ngicela nitishayele tandla. Sesiceda I-program yethu seyisemaphephelweni nawo nami sengihambise amaphepha kaningi. I would just like to thank the organizers of the program, this amazing program, for us to discuss such pertinent issues. And also the winds of change are here. Change is inevitable. We must just have a certain level of preparedness from our end. Have growth mindsets and be willing to move and also roll with the punches. Sifunze, sichubeke, njengoba shithi umhlonishwa, include everyone. Bude lo ngcono nalomunye, sibeketelelane, sifunzisane. Kona speaker lesishito ukuthi nawe ulipheyisa. Wherever you are with what you have, you can be the change that we need to see. From me, your host, Umconzisi, we program ni Danishiya Batanginshiyi Nodva. Ni Danishiya na Mr. Mlidzi Habagan, who is the chairperson of the Eswatini Internet Governance Multi-Stakeholder Committee, the organizers who put this program together. Sibonga kakhulu siyasingababonga bo-organizer kani mkhulu lo msebenzi. Nginibonge nani for being such an amazing audience. But ngicela nibo wathi simakuphumela elijazi leli lo msebenzi usuke amkhulu. So next time mani ngibona ngigcoke lona nathi ukuthi hayi ngimatima khulu lokwendekako. Thank you so much, and please give yourselves another round of applause. You've been an amazing audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's a terrible thing to come in between a person and their food, especially at lunchtime. But for the next 30 minutes, allow me to speak. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries, captains of industry, stakeholders, all protocol observed, I greet you all. My name is Mlidzi Habangan, and finally, I've met him. There's a gentleman here who everyone has confused me for, Mlindzi. I am Mlidzi. I am not a police officer. I have no handcuffs, not even the fluffy ones. So my name is Mlidzi. Me, like you and me, Lee, like Bruce Lee, and you just have to remember Z, Mlidzi. Say it with me. Okay, thank you. I am from the Southern District, Shiselweni, Macalpine and Hlangano, by marriage. But I'm a citizen of Botswana. I immigrated here to the Kingdom of Eswatini, the wonderful Kingdom of Eswatini. As the MC has said, I represent the Eswatini IGF Multi-Stakeholder Coordinating Team, where I serve as chair. And in industry, I represent Netcom. It's an IT solutions provider in the private sector, and I serve there as an operations director. I also serve on the board of Business Eswatini, like Miliswa, Milidzi, Lindsay, we're all there. It's all about the M. And I represent the ICT sector on Business Eswatini board. I'm also chief executive of a non-profit organization with a focus on technology and energy for marginalized communities. We'll be launching that NPO next year. It's called, early next year, it's called Ionosphere Incorporated. And I'm very sorry to disappoint all the ladies here. I am married, happily at that matter. All right, I'm heavily into technology, so if you forget my name, just call me Spider-Man. I'm always on the web. I'm not that Spider-Man who you see dancing on the internet to Zekete. Zekete. No, not that Spider-Man. I couldn't dance to save my life, just like each and every one of you technical aficionados. So Cicero, an ancient Roman statesman, says gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. My task here is the vote of thanks. The success of this event did not come about overnight, but rather with the hard work and participation of a vast array of networks. I would like to take this time to honor and thank the following. The creator of all that is seen and unseen, who woke us up this morning and allowed us this opportunity to come here today. The Policy and Regulation Initiative for Digital Africa, PRIDA, and the Internet Governance Technical Expert, Dr. Nyambura Margaret Ndungu. So thank you for them. African Union and their Senior Policy Officer, Telkom and ICT, Mr. Adil Suleiman. The Deputy State President, Deputy Senate President, Honorable Senators, senior government officials, the Ministry of ICT, all the officers present. Can we see the members of the Ministry of ICT here? It's really instrumental. Them. I see the PS, Mr. Pesha David Dubezi. Are we all here? Let's stand up. I just want to show you off for all the work that you've done. Are they here? Stand up, guys. Let everybody also see you. Yes. There we go. Thank you, Ministry of ICT, and your leadership as well. The Eswatini Communications Commission, my line regulator, its EXCO officers and their chief executive under the leadership of Mvilo MP Dlamini. Eswatini Revenue Services representatives, UNDP representatives, World Bank representatives, Central Bank of Eswatini and banking sector representatives, our esteemed sponsors and partners, representatives from telecommunications organizations, representatives of social, faith-based, and economic organizations, Business Eswatini, UNESWA, and representatives of education and academia, Royal Eswatini Police Service, distinguished panelists and moderators, our Eswatini Internet Governance Forum Multi-Stakeholder Committee and team, our Eswatini IGF Secretariat, comprising of Sakile Dlamini and Nokchula Hlope, who have monumentally assisted me in my role in the IGF directly. I'm new to this, and I really got a lot of support from the Secretariat. The media and communication houses present. Our youth, the pride and future of our nation. We must embrace these young people, nurture them, hear them, and honestly, when it comes to technology, we can actually learn from them. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, all of you, our dignified stakeholders who have participated in making this event the tremendous success that it has been, those present here and those also watching, viewing online through our online platforms. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here today and participating. My takeaway today, the reality is that internet and technology underpins and cuts across everything in this modern era. And I challenge myself and everyone here today to see how we can either improve or contribute using tools that are readily at our disposal. Romans 12:2, yes, I am also a teacher in the Christian faith, says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you may know the good, the pleasing, and the perfect will of God. So let us renew, let us adapt to employ technology and emerging trends while taking serious consideration for the governance issues thereof. And let us continually celebrate the milestones, achievements, and unique innovations of our beloved nation. I am so grateful for this opportunity, and I invite you all to stand and give a round of applause for what we have achieved here today. So stand with me. And give yourselves a huge round of applause for what we have achieved today. See you in Addis Ababa, those of you who are coming, and have a great day. All the best. Thank you very much. Amen. That's it, guys. I think we are good to go. All right. Thank you.
Lunch is served. Ngale. Sit down.
Ngicela lunch at the restaurant. Yes.
The internet, the global network of networks that changed our lives. It has become embedded in every aspect of our day-to-day lives, such that a few of us recall what life was like without it. The internet has opened a new world for many of us and improved the quality of our lives. It is supporting many political, economic, educational, and other objectives, thus making it essential in almost everything we do, be it at home, at school, or at work. It is key in enhancing the free flow of information and ideas around the world. As a result, its access has become a priority. Despite its revolutionary impacts, the internet is at a critical point in its development because its rapid growth presents a variety of challenges. Its growing pervasiveness has placed increasing strain on its governance. There are concerns around the issue of privacy and security, debate on its openness and fragmentation, the extent of the controls that should be put on its use, the commercial use of personal data and cybercrime, technologists struggling to ensure the internet is able to keep pace with the rapidly growing number of its users, and many more. However, its global nature has made its regulation very complex and challenging. It being decentralized means that there is a complex web of distributed internet governance bodies, IGBs, with distinct purviews and different operating procedures that coordinate the various international standards that enable it to operate as a truly global network. But what exactly is internet governance, and which players are involved in the governance of the internet? Internet governance is the development and application by governments, the private sector, and civil society in their respective roles of shared principles, norms, rules, decision-making procedures, and programs that shape the evolution and use of the internet. Several stakeholders are involved in the governance of the internet. Thus, the multi-stakeholder governance (MSG) approach, which provides a platform for policy dialogue where all stakeholders take part on an equal footing. Internet actors, including national governments and national authorities, determine the national policies for access and use of the internet. Internet service providers are the key online intermediaries which provide access to the internet for end users. They are regulated by the national legislation of each country, which may lead to unequal treatment of internet services in different countries. Telecommunication companies. They facilitate internet traffic and run internet infrastructure. Their main interest in internet governance is to ensure a business-friendly global environment for development of an internet telecommunication infrastructure. Internet content companies. They can be small startups as well as very big, well-known tech companies. Their core business models can be affected by changes in internet governance, for instance, arrangement related to data protection and privacy, cybersecurity, and net neutrality. The technical community. These include institutions and individuals who have developed and promoted the internet since its inception. They created the internet based on principles of sharing resources, open access, and opposition to government involvement in internet regulation. Domain name companies. These include registrars and registries who sell internet domain names, for example .com and .net. They have also been involved in the broader internet governance policy process with the main objective of reducing the risk of potential takeover of ICANN's role by intergovernmental organization. Civil society has been the most vocal and active promoter of multi-stakeholder to internet governance. Just as many countries, the government of Eswatini annually hosts an event that brings together all these stakeholders together to a meeting where open and inclusive policy issues relating to internet governance are discussed. These may include the internet sustainability, robustness, security stability, and development. This year's Internet Governance Forum theme is a resilient internet for a shared, sustainable, and common future. Given that the internet plays a critical role in society today and our everyday activities, resilience of the network has become more important than ever. A resilient internet connection is one that will maintain an acceptable level of service in the face of faults and challenges to normal operation. It is therefore important that as stakeholders of the governance of internet, during this forum, we formulate policies and strategies that will ensure the requisite infrastructure is in place, performance is seamless, adequate security controls are in place, and a market-ready internet for Eswatini. With working together, we will be able to provide end users in Eswatini with seamless and reliable access to internet services. The 2022 Eswatini Internet Governance Forum is brought to you by the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology in partnership with Eswatini Communications Commission, Eswatini Internet Governance Forum, PRIDA, the African Union, European Union, and Congo.